Chapter 51. The Land of the Sarutobi Clan. Something terrible has happened. Something terrible has happened. The two Sarutobi clan members were panic-stricken and staggered towards the clan's territory, shouting non-stop. They looked extremely panicked, as if they had seen something extremely terrifying. Hearing the noise, many curious people in the tribe came out of their homes to find out what was going on. The two tribesmen were seen stumbling and running, with fear on their faces becoming more and more obvious. "Ahole, what are you yelling about so early in the morning?" The great elder frowned, walked out of the house with an unhappy face, and shouted angrily. He secretly wondered what had happened to these two guys that made them so panicked and completely lose their usual composure. When the two men saw the great elder, they hurriedly walked up to him, panting and breathing so fast that they couldn't even speak smoothly. "Something terrible has happened. Great elder, something terrible has happened." Their voices trembled with deep fear. The great elder frowned and shouted more and more impatiently, "What happened? Tell me quickly. Don't waste time here." Seeing the panicked looks of these two people, the great elder couldn't help but feel worried. Could it be that something serious had happened in the clan? "Great elder, the clan leaders of all the major families in Konoha must unite and force the clan leader to abdicate." "What?" After hearing this shocking news, the great elder subconsciously took several steps back. If there hadn't been someone supporting him in time, he would have probably fallen to the ground. "How is this possible? Why would this happen?" The great elder murmured in a low voice, his face full of disbelief. "Boss, what happened?" The second elder asked curiously when he saw the scene in the clan. The third and fourth elders stood behind him, and they all looked at the first elder with confusion. The great elder raised his head, his eyes bloodshot, and said in a low voice, "I'm afraid Hiruzen's position as Hokage is no longer secure." Hearing this, several elders widened their eyes in disbelief, their faces filled with astonishment. "Why is this happening? Didn't Hiruzen already collect enough money?" The great elder sighed deeply. "It is because of this money that the major families have become dissatisfied. Now they have united and want to force Hiruzen to abdicate." After hearing this, several elders were filled with despair and suddenly collapsed to the ground. "What should we do now?" Just then, Sarutobi Hiruzen yawned and slowly walked out of the courtyard. What happened? He was busy until late at night yesterday to make money and was already exhausted both physically and mentally. He finally got a good night's sleep, but was woken up early in the morning, which made him very unhappy. Seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen slowly walking out, the great elder's face turned red with anger. He pointed a trembling finger at Sarutobi Hiruzen and said angrily, "Ahole! If it weren't for your little thing, how could things have developed to this point?" Sarutobi Hiruzen looked confused, having no idea what was going on. He was full of doubts. What had he done? Wasn't the money issue already resolved? Why did the elder scold him so angrily? "Great elder, what happened?" Sarutobi Hiruzen asked curiously. "How dare you ask? The major families are now discussing your abdication in the Hokage building." The fourth elder snorted coldly, his tone full of dissatisfaction. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked stunned and full of disbelief. What the hell? Wasn't he doing well? Why did he abdicate? How come the sky fell down when he woke up? Sarutobi Hiruzen didn't dare to delay and hurried in the direction of the Hokage building. Could it be that what happened yesterday caused them dissatisfaction? Sarutobi Hiruzen muttered to himself. Thinking of this, Sarutobi Hiruzen widened his eyes, his heart filled with shock. No way! Outside the Hokage building. At this time, more and more people gathered like a tide. After they heard what Sarutobi Hiruzen had done, they were all furious and angry. Shimura danced quietly mixed in the crowd, looking at the indignation of the people around him. His face was full of relief and he was secretly proud in his heart. Haha, Hiruzen's Hokage has reached its limit. Shimura dance couldn't help but say proudly. At this moment, he had already begun to imagine in his mind the glorious scene of himself becoming Hokage after Sarutobi Hiruzen abdicated. At this moment, a cry of surprise suddenly broke out from the crowd. Look, the third Hokage is coming. Everyone turned their heads and saw the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen rushing over in a hurry. When Sarutobi Hiruzen saw so many people, his heart sank and he realized clearly that he might really be finished. He walked tremblingly onto the stage, looking at the patriarchs of the major families and the audience with complicated eyes, opening and closing his mouth, as if he wanted to say something but didn't know where to start. For a moment, the field was very quiet, and everyone was waiting for the third Hokage's explanation. Seeing that no one spoke, Shimura-dan's smile froze. It seems like these villagers want to hear Sarutobi Hiruzen's explanation, but that won't work. What if Hiruzen really clears himself? But he knew clearly how terrible his old friend's speaking ability was. He was able to turn black into white and fool this group of villagers. Shimura-dan's absolutely could not give the other party a chance to explain, so he shouted at the top of his voice, "Get out! Get out!" Hearing his words, the villagers followed and shouted, "Get out! Get out!" When Shimura-dan saw the villagers' reactions, his mouth almost stretched to his ears. This was exactly the effect he wanted. Without giving Sarutobi Hiruzen a chance to explain, he will have no choice but to step down from the position of Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed silently after seeing the angry crowd in the audience. It seemed that he didn't even have a chance to explain. He knew in his heart that the matter was a foregone conclusion and could not be changed. Sarutobi Hiruzen really didn't expect these clan leaders to use this trick. Perhaps he pushed them too hard, which led them to act like this. Indeed, after all, Sarutobi Hiruzen demanded 500 million from the major families in just one day, which did seem a bit greedy. But there was no way. Sarutobi Hiruzen also had his own difficulties. If he didn't collect the money and give it to Black Zetsu, he would not only lose his position as Hokage, but also his reputation in old age. Although he had lost his position as Hokage, he was only accused of corruption and bribery, not peeping into the women's bathhouse. If it was the latter, he would rather die. I was indeed wrong in doing this, and I am willing to step down from the position of Hokage. Sarutobi Hiruzen slowly took off the Hokage hat and bowed deeply to the villagers below. Unexpectedly, he, Sarutobi Hiruzen, would become the first Hokage to be ousted. How tragic! Shimura-dan's was overjoyed, secretly rejoicing in his heart. Hiruzen is finally gone. The position of Hokage is coming. Chapter 52. Outside the Hokage building. After saying this, Sarutobi Hiruzen seemed to age 10 years in an instant, and his straight back hunched slightly. He silently handed the bamboo hat in his hand, which symbolized the power and responsibility of Hokage, to Narashikaku beside him, with deep reluctance in his eyes. Then, he looked back at the Hokage building behind him with nostalgia. This majestic building witnessed his hard work over the years and carried half of his youth. Sarutobi Hiruzen walked down the platform slowly, each step seemed so heavy. He looked silently at the steps under his feet, recalling the scene when he once preached the will of fire here. At that time, he was full of passion and high spirits, and the people in the audience were full of respect and admiration for him. However, now, he felt the undisguised disgust in the eyes of everyone. Those eyes were like sharp blades, piercing his heart. Everyone watched his every move quietly, no one made a sound, and the whole scene was unusually quiet. They watched the former Hokage leave in silence, with everyone's heart filled with complicated emotions. Sarutobi Hiruzen walked slowly among the crowd, his figure looking lonely and desolate. Recalling his past achievements, Sarutobi Hiruzen couldn't help but smile to himself. The high-spirited and confident Hokage was no longer there, replaced by an old man who was corrupted by the desire for power and became selfish. He couldn't help but sigh, "In my entire life, I still haven't been able to keep the will of fire." A few years ago, Sarutobi Hiruzen had served as Hokage for more than 30 years and was already exhausted physically and mentally. At that time, he felt that he had done enough for Konoha and it was time to take a break. So he resolutely resigned from the position of Hokage and, through an election by the villagers, handed over this important task to the young and promising Namikaze Minato. However, when he actually stepped down from the position of Hokage, a strange feeling came over him. He began to miss the busy and fulfilling days before, and felt empty inside, as if he had lost something important. What's worse is that since he retired, no one has come to give him gifts anymore. The once bustling front door has become deserted, and this sense of difference makes him regretful. Sarutobi Hiruzen began to regret that he had given up the position of Hokage in a fit of anger, but there is no medicine for regret in the world, and it was all too late. He began to realize that power was indeed an alluring opportunity that could bring glory and respect. Now, he can only accept the reality silently and lead an ordinary life. But a few years later, the Nine Tails Rebellion suddenly broke out in Konoha village. In order to protect the village, 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato had no choice but to seal the Nine Tails with his own life. This incident plunged the village into chaos, and the village was leaderless, and someone was urgently needed to step forward and lead everyone. Sarutobi Hiruzen observed this keenly, and realized that his chance to return to the position of Hokage had come. So, he used his qualifications and prestige to ascend the throne of Hokage again. This made his good friend Shimura Dance very angry. Why could Sarutobi Hiruzen be the Hokage twice? Because of jealousy, Shimura Dance made trouble for Sarutobi Hiruzen, but Sarutobi Hiruzen turned a blind eye. Sarutobi Hiruzen was very excited about becoming Hokage again and having power in his hands. The major families that had originally distanced themselves from him now came back to curry favor with him. This made him realize that he could not lose the position of Hokage at any cost. Although he was over 60 years old, he had never thought of abdicating and he planned to sit in this position until the last moment of his life. But what happened today brought him back to reality after having long been lost in the vortex of power. He had indeed done a lot of foolish things over the years because of the expansion of power. But it was too late. He had already lost the support of the people and there was no way to win it back. Sarutobi Hiruzen knew that from this moment on, he would lose his position as Hokage forever and become a part of history. But he did not regret it, because he understood that the struggle for power would only hurt more people, and only true peace could bring happiness. With this realization, Sarutobi Hiruzen silently left the Hokage building, leaving behind a lonely back. After Sarutobi Hiruzen left completely, the heads of the major families looked at each other in bewilderment. Narashikaku, what should we do now? Now that the third Hokage has stepped down, who will be the fifth Hokage? Hearing this, Narashikaku also fell into deep thought. For a moment, he didn't know who to recommend as the Hokage. Uchiha Fugaku was a little excited, he felt that Uchiha's chance had come, as long as he could become Hokage today, then the Uchiha clan would truly rise. He was just about to recommend himself when an inopportune voice suddenly sounded, causing Uchiha Fugaku's face to darken. The candidate for the fifth Hokage must be someone with experience and heritage, and preferably someone who has an extraordinary relationship with previous Hokages. And only those who have a certain prestige in the village are qualified to serve as Hokage, not just anyone can be the Hokage. Shimura Dance walked slowly to the podium with a cane, his voice carrying a hint of majesty and an unquestionable tone. When Uchiha Fugaku heard this, he felt a surge of anger in his heart. He stared at Shimura Dance, wishing he could rush up and tear the old dog into pieces. However, he could only suppress his inner anger because now was not the time to take action. Uchiha Fugaku knew that according to Shimura Dance, only those with a certain background and qualifications could become Hokage, which meant that the Uchiha clan had little chance of competing. They had always been an important force in Konoha village, but were excluded from the core of power. Uchiha Fugaku knew that Shimura Dance's proposal would be supported by most people. After all, people tend to prefer tradition and seniority when selecting Hokage. As a result, the Uchiha clan had no chance of becoming Hokage. Uchiha Fugaku felt extremely frustrated and disappointed. He originally thought that with his own strength and family influence, he could win some voice for the Uchiha clan. But now, they have to face reality and accept their fate of being marginalized. It's just a pity for the Uchiha. As one of the two major families that founded Konoha, he doesn't even have a position in the upper echelons of Konoha, let alone the Hokage. Just as Uchiha Fugaku thought, everyone agreed with Shimura Dance's words. That's a good suggestion. I support this suggestion. Narashikaku's eyes lit up. He has seniority, a legacy, a relationship with successive Hokages, and a certain reputation in the village. I know who this person is. Hearing this, Shimura Dance's lips curled up, and he looked at Narashikaku with appreciation, as expected of a member of the Nara clan. You are so smart. The conditions proposed by Shimura Dance were tailor-made for him, and he met almost every one of them perfectly. He is making questions exactly according to the answers. Chapter 53. The position of Hokage, here I come. Shimura Dance shouted madly in his heart. He has been waiting for this day for half his life. Ever since he became a Jonin, his dream has been to become Hokage, so he has been working tirelessly for this dream. Although he experienced many setbacks in the process, he never thought of giving up. Finally today, he is about to ascend to the position of Hokage that he has always dreamed of. After all, he meets all the conditions he mentioned, qualifications. As one of the top leaders of Konoha village, his qualifications are undoubtedly sufficient. Over the years, he has been involved in the decision-making and management of Konoha village and is familiar with the situation in the village. This experience gives him an incomparable advantage in terms of qualifications. Heritage, he is one of the favorite students of second Hokage Senju Tobirama, which means he has inherited powerful ninjutsu and wisdom. This kind of heritage is very important to become a good Hokage. Relationship with successive Hokage, he is not only a disciple of the second Hokage, but also a close comrade and friend of the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, and together they protect the peace of the village. He has a certain reputation in the village. He is not only the Hokage advisor, but also the good brother of the third Hokage and the disciple of the second Hokage. His experience, ability, and loyalty can definitely win the respect and trust of the villagers. Based on these conditions, Shimura Dance felt that apart from Mito Kato Homura and Udaten Koharu, no one else in Konoha village was qualified to compete with him for the position of Hokage. Now, those two old guys are only thinking about lying down and enjoying their retirement life, and will definitely not compete with him for this position. Therefore, he confidently believed that he was the most suitable candidate. After all, who can compare with him in terms of strength, experience, and wisdom? It can be said that he is bound to win the position of Hokage. Shimura Dance looked at Narashikaku expectantly, wanting to hear him say his name in person. I know, this person is Senju Tsunade. Narashikaku said with a smile. Yes, yes, yes. Haha, you're right, it's Senju. After Shimura Dance reacted, the smile on his face froze, and he looked at Narashikaku in disbelief. After a while, he finally reacted and yelled, What? You said it was Senju Tsunade. His face turned red with anger and his body couldn't stop shaking. This result was completely beyond his expectations and he couldn't accept this fact. Narashikaku looked at Shimura Dance with a smile on his face and said slowly, Yes, Counselor Denzo, it is the princess of the Senju clan, Senju Tsunade. Shimura Dance was furious and roared loudly, I can't believe you would recommend a woman to be the Hokage. And it's that gambling-addicted, unambitious Tsunade. Narashikaku disagreed. He patiently explained to Shimura Dance, Don't get excited, Advisor Danzo. Let's analyze the conditions you proposed, and Tsunade actually meets them all. First of all, it's about seniority. Tsunade is one of the Sunin of Konoha, and was once famous along with Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Is this seniority enough? Secondly, it is about inheritance. Tsunade is the disciple of the third Hokage. Although the third Hokage has made a mistake and stepped down, we cannot forget his achievements. As his disciple, Tsunade is still qualified to inherit the position of Hokage. Let's talk about the relationship with successive Hokage. The first Hokage is Tsunade's grandfather, the second Hokage is her second grandfather, the third Hokage is her teacher, and the fourth Hokage's teacher is her good friend. Finally, Tsunade has a very high reputation in the village. Not only is she powerful, she is also a famous medical ninja in the ninja world. Her medical ninjutsu saved countless ninjas in Konoha during the war. Isn't such a person the most suitable candidate to become Hokage? Upon hearing this, Shimura Dance's expression froze instantly, and he was petrified on the spot. In this way, Tsunade seemed to really meet the conditions he set better than him, which made him regretful and even wanted to slap himself a few times. How despicable is he to propose such a condition? At this moment, Shimura Dance felt extremely regretful because he realized that his behavior just now was extremely stupid. He originally thought that by proposing these conditions he could show his ability and superiority, and then naturally ascend to the position of Hokage that he had always dreamed of. But he didn't expect that Narashikaku would find someone more suitable than him based on the conditions he proposed. This is great, isn't he just shooting himself in the foot? He is almost crying because of his own stupidity. Seeing Shimura Dance's annoyed look, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. He looked at Shimura Dance happily, laughing in his heart. How could he not understand that the conditions proposed by Shimura Dance were clearly in accordance with his own? This old guy obviously had the ambition to become Hokage for a long time, but he just never showed it. However, Narashikaku suddenly mentioned someone who was more qualified, Tsunade, which put Shimura Dance in a dilemma. Uchiha Fugaku was really happy. Although he couldn't become Hokage, it was even more impossible for Shimura Dance to become Hokage. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but curl up the corners of his mouth. Seeing that this old guy was also unable to realize this dream, his sense of loss was immediately alleviated a lot. After all, although it is hard to accept one's own failure, it is more distressing to see someone else succeed. Fortunately, that old dog Shimura Dance also failed, otherwise he would not be able to sleep all night. Patriarch Nara is right, Master Tsunade is indeed qualified to be the 5th Hokage. That's right, the 5th Hokage must be Tsunade-sama. Master Danzo is worthy of being a high-ranking official in Konoha. This is a great suggestion. Isn't it? Although I don't know what he does, but judging from his ideas, he is definitely not an ordinary leader. At this time, the people in the audience were talking about it, expressing their appreciation and support for Danzo's proposal. However, they did not know that Shimura Danz was suffering a huge blow at this time. When Shimura Danz heard the words of the people below, he felt a blockage in his heart and a surge of anger in his heart. He spat out a mouthful of blood, and then his eyes turned black and he fell on the podium. The patriarchs of the major families on the stage looked confused, they had no idea what was going on. Why did Shimura Danz suddenly faint? The clan leaders subconsciously looked at Uchiha Fugaku standing aside. After all, he was the only one present who possessed this strange ability, and everyone suspected that he was the one who did it. Uchiha Fugaku was confused when he saw everyone looking at him. He waved his hands and said, "Why are you looking at me? I didn't do anything." The clan leaders looked at the 3 Tomo Sharingan in Uchiha Fugaku's eyes with disbelief. They thought that with the power of the Uchiha family's bloodline limit, the Sharingan, it would not be difficult to do this. Uchiha Fugaku then remembered that he had subconsciously activated the Sharingan because he was too angry, but this was really not what he did. He really fainted suddenly on his own. "I didn't do anything," Uchiha Fugaku explained anxiously. However, all the clan leaders showed an expression of "we all understand" and nodded to show their understanding. I understand, he just fainted suddenly, it was definitely not done by the Fugaku chief." Seeing this, Uchiha Fugaku's mouth twitched. This time it was really hard to explain. What the hell, what happened to Consultant Danzo? Isn't he dead? Where's the medical ninja? Where's the medical ninja? Everyone saw Danzo suddenly fall down, and they all shouted in panic. The scene was in chaos, and people began to look for medical ninjas to treat Danzo. Danzo fell to the ground, unconscious with a trace of bloodline hanging from the corner of his mouth. Chapter 54. The Country of Soup. Outside a women's bathhouse, there was a middle-aged man with white hair and stubble on his face. He was lying by the window with a lewd look on his face, peeking inside with a thief-like look. There was a big word "oil" written on his forehead. This man was Jiraiya, the yellow of Konoha Village's yellow, gambling and drugs. He, today's girl is so hot. Looking at the scene in front of him, Jiraiya's eyes lit up and his saliva was almost flowing out. As he stared inside, he sighed, "Sure enough, it's only in places like this that I can find inspiration for my new book." However, just as Jiraiya was watching intently, a burly voice suddenly sounded from behind him. "UBD, you're peeping into the women's bath again." Hearing this voice, Jiraiya's heart skipped a beat and he quickly turned around to look. "I saw a burly lady rushing towards me angrily with a broom next to her." Jiraiya's eyes widened in horror. Just as he was about to explain, the broom was already close at hand. With a dull bang, the broom hit him directly on the head, and a cloud of dust was immediately raised. "Ouch! It hurts so much." Jiraiya quickly covered his head and screamed with his teeth bared. However, before he finished speaking, the old lady raised the broom again and hit him hard. Seeing this, Jiraiya dared not stay any longer and ran away in a hurry. "Don't run," the old lady yelled, chasing after him. Jiraiya was panicking, running, and shouting, "Help! Someone is killing me!" For a moment, the whole street was in chaos, it was so lively. "You old BD, I'm going to beat you to death," the auntie roared, veins bulging on her arm holding the broom. It was hard to imagine that the owner of this muscular body was just a cleaning lady in a bathhouse. "Auntie, I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again." Jiraiya covered his head and begged for mercy. "You said the same thing last time." The angry aunt swung the broom and hit Jiraiya on the back. Jiraiya felt pain and quickly quickened his pace. After a long time, Jiraiya finally got rid of the ant behind him. He shook his head helplessly and sighed, "I am one of the Sunin of Konoha after all, but I was chased and beaten by an old lady all over the street. It's really getting worse and worse." Gurgle suddenly, his stomach growled. "Oh, I'm so hungry. I guess I have to find a place to eat first." Jiraiya touched his rumbling stomach and looked around for a restaurant. He came to a tavern, which was bustling with people coming and going. Jiraiya walked in, sat down, and ordered a bowl of ramen and a glass of wine. While waiting for the noodles, Jiraiya looked at the people around him and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This is the life of ordinary people. Although ordinary, it is full of warmth and happiness. Soon, the ramen was served and Jiraiya started eating it with a satisfied expression on his face. At this moment, the discussions of several people around him made him pause in eating noodles, and he subconsciously looked in the direction of those people. At a table not far away, several men were drinking and chatting. One of them smiled and said, "Have you heard? The third Hokage of Konoha village was driven out by the villagers." Another man asked curiously, "Is this true? What happened to the third Hokage? Why did he suddenly step down?" The man who spoke at the beginning shook his head. "I just heard it from a businessman. He just came back from the land of fire yesterday. I don't know the details, but it seems that the third Hokage has collapsed." Hearing this, Jiraiya's mouth twitched, and he murmured, "Could the old man have been discovered by someone while peeping into the women's bathhouse like me?" As he thought about it, Jiraiya smiled mischievously, "Hey, that must be the case. Otherwise, with the old man's prestige, how could he be driven out by the villagers?" Jiraiya nodded thoughtfully and said to himself, That should be the case. But then again, doesn't the old man have that magical crystal ball? Why doesn't he just observe through the crystal ball, but go to the scene in person? Is it because it would be more exciting to watch it in person? Thinking of this, Jiraiya suddenly realized that this was the case. How could the scene in the crystal ball compare to the immersive excitement of being there in person? When talking about the crystal ball, Jiraiya couldn't help but think back to more than 10 years ago. Decades ago, Jiraiya had been drooling over the crystal ball in Sarutobi Hiruzen's hand, longing to possess it, but every time he asked his teacher for it, he was rejected. Sarutobi Hiruzen always said that the crystal ball was an important tool for him to maintain peace and stability in Konoha village, not a toy for people like them to use to satisfy their personal desires. At that time, Jiraiya believed it to be true, until one day he suddenly entered the Hokage's office, only to find that the third Hokage was staring at the crystal ball intently, completely immersed in it, and didn't even notice Jiraiya's arrival. When Jiraiya saw the image in the crystal ball clearly, his whole worldview collapsed. He never expected that his teacher would be such a person. He didn't expect that the teacher who was highly respected in their hearts would secretly use a crystal ball to spy on the female bathhouse, doing what Jiraiya had always wanted to do but couldn't do. Jiraiya stood beside the teacher without hesitation and watched the wonderful scene in the crystal ball together. The two of them drooled while enjoying this intoxicating scene. By the time Sarutobi Hiruzen finally realized Jiraiya's existence, it was too late. In order for Jiraiya to keep the secret, Sarutobi Hiruzen had to lend the crystal ball to Jiraiya. In this way, Jiraiya happily took the crystal ball back home. During that time, Jiraiya stayed at the second gate all day long, completely immersed in the temptation of the crystal ball. During this period, he had an inspiration to write a book, so he began to write a book of happiness for otakus, Intimate Paradise. This book Intimate Paradise is full of elements that otakus like, and the content is rich and colorful and fascinating. Unexpectedly, the book caused a huge sensation as soon as it was launched, and its sales volume continued to rise, becoming a bestseller. Jiraiya also became famous because of this. In addition to his identity as a ninja, he also gained a highly regarded identity as a novelist. Thinking back to the present, Jiraiya smiled helplessly and said with emotion, "Teacher, how old does a man have to be to stop being lustful?" Jiraiya was certain in his heart that the old man must have been accidentally discovered by the villagers when he used the crystal ball to peek into the women's bathhouse, which caused a very bad influence in the village, and finally he had to abdicate. After all, not many people in the village knew about the old man's habit of peeping into the women's bathhouse. Now that the story had spread to everyone, he was probably forced to abdicate because of the loss of his reputation in his later years. "It seems like it's time to go back to the village," Jiraiya muttered. Chapter 55. Outside the gate of Konoha village. Jiraiya looked at the unchanging gate of Konoha village, his mouth twitched, and he couldn't help but complain, "I didn't expect that after so many years, the village has not changed at all. I don't know what the old man did with the money." At this time, there were two gatekeepers standing at the door. They were the gate gods of Konoha, Shinayu Izumo and Gangzatai. If young Xiao was here, he would definitely recognize these two people. In the story of Hokage, they always stood guard at the gate. Even when facing a powerful figure like Pain, the other party did not dare to enter through the main gate easily. Even when Konoha was destroyed later, the gate still stood. Konoha is gone, but the gate is still there. I won't say much about their strength. When the two saw Jiraiya at the door, they were stunned for a moment. After a while, Kanzuki Izumo asked in disbelief, "Si? Lord Jiraiya, is that you?" Jiraiya smiled and patted Kamatsuki Izumo's shoulder, jokingly saying, "Haha, I didn't expect that after so many years, you two are still guarding the gate." After that, he left in a cool manner. Shen Yu Chuyun and Gang Zisha were left staring at his departing back with dark faces. If I had known earlier, I would have pretended not to know him. That's right, who would have thought his mouth stinks so bad? Being extroverted once resulted in a lifetime of introversion. Shen Yu Chuyun swore in his heart that he would never get close to anyone again in his life. He wanted to be a cool and aloof security guard. Jiraiya walked down the street, looking nostalgically at the buildings around him, reminding him of his childhood memories with Tsunade and Orochimaru. Unfortunately, Orochimaru has betrayed the village and fled Konoha, and Tsunade has also left the village and disappeared. I have also been away from home for many years and rarely returned to the village. The name of Konoha-Sunin that once resounded throughout the ninja world has long been in name only and has become history. As he walked, Jiraiya unknowingly came to the Sarutobi clan's territory. He did not choose to go through the main gate, but quietly climbed over the wall, sneaked into the interior of the Sarutobi clan, and went to Sarutobi Hiruzen's residence with ease. When Jiraiya stepped into the Sarutobi tribe, he was shocked by the scene before him. The decoration here was extremely luxurious, magnificent, and beautiful. Jiraiya's eyes widened and he muttered to himself, "How much does it cost to decorate this gorgeously? I wonder where the Sarutobi clan got the money from." As he spoke, Jiraiya quickened his pace and walked quickly towards Sarutobi Hiruzen's house. Soon, he arrived at his destination. At this time, Sarutobi Hiruzen was sitting leisurely at the door basking in the sun. Suddenly, a slight sound of footsteps came, and he subconsciously raised his head and looked in the direction of the sound. When he saw the person coming, a flash of surprise flashed in his eyes, but soon he smiled and said kindly, "Jiraiya, when did you come back?" Jiraiya looked at the man who was once full of vigor and vitality but now looked a little tired and old, and he couldn't help but feel an indescribable sadness in his heart. He still remembered that when he came back last time, everything was fine, but how could it become like this now? However, he did not show his inner feelings, but jokingly said, "Hey, old man, I heard that you were caught peeping into the women's bathhouse and then kicked off the stage." Sarutobi Hiruzen was furious when he heard this and cursed helplessly, "UBD, where did you hear these rumors?" Jiraiya shrugged indifferently, still with a cynical smile on his face, and asked curiously, "It doesn't look like that, then how did you get kicked out, old man?" Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed softly, turned and walked into the yard, and said calmly, "Come in and talk." Seeing this, Jiraiya hurriedly followed and closed the door. He asked curiously, "Can you tell me now?" Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed and told Jiraiya what happened yesterday. After hearing Sarutobi Hiruzen's explanation, Jiraiya's eyes widened in disbelief. "I was wondering why the Sarutobi clan decorated so magnificently. It turns out that you, old man, embezzled. Oh no, this is clearly robbery. No wonder the major families want to get rid of you, don't you deserve it?" Sarutobi Hiruzen heard his apprentice's scolding, silently picked up the pipe, put it in his mouth, took a puff, and blew out a puff of smoke. After a long time, he explained, "In fact, there is a hidden story behind this matter." So, Sarutobi Hiruzen told Jiraiya that he was threatened by Black Zetsu. After listening to Sarutobi Hiruzen's story, Jiraiya asked in disbelief, "That dark guy said that the photo stone in his hand can record what happened in 3 days." Jiraiya was so excited. This photo stone was a good thing. If he had it, he could put the photo stones in bathhouses all over the ninja world, then he wouldn't have to worry about being discovered while he was collecting materials. "Old man, are you still in contact with that guy? This photo stone is a good thing," Jiraiya said excitedly. Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Jiraiya speechlessly. Wasn't he talking about how he was threatened and had to ask for a large sum of money from the major families? Why did he bring up the photo stone? Sarutobi Hiruzen said angrily, "Get lost." Seeing the teacher's reaction, Jiraiya smiled indifferently, "If you ask me, old man, you are too concerned about your reputation and that's why you end up like this. You are really suffering for your own sake. Well, now that you're okay, I'm going to leave and find Tsunade to inherit the position of Hokage." Alas, Orochimaru hasn't been found yet, and now I have to look for Tsunade. These two guys are really a worry. With that, Jiraiya turned around, waved his hand, and left the Sarutobi clan's territory. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Jiraiya leaving with a complicated expression. After a long while, he murmured, perhaps Jiraiya is more suitable to be the Hokage than Tsunade. After learning that the village was looking for Tsunade to return to the village to inherit the position of Hokage, Jiraiya actively participated in it and left the Fire Country to look for Tsunade. Unfortunately, Jiraiya left the Fire Country towards the east, while two figures were slowly approaching the Fire Country from the west. The Fire Nation border. Lord Tsunade, please stop gambling. Tun Tun and I are starving to death. Shizun begged. Tsunade waved his hands impatiently and said nonchalantly, it's just my bad luck today. When I return to the village, I will mortgage the Senjo land and then I will definitely win back all the money I lost. Hearing Tsunade's words, Shizun panicked and tried to dissuade him. What? Lord Tsunade, you are planning to mortgage the Senjo land? This is absolutely not allowed. The clan land is so big, I can't live in it all by myself, I might as well sell it and get some money to use. Master Tsunade, please don't be stupid. However, at this moment, Tsunade in front suddenly stopped, and Shizun bumped into him because he didn't have time to react. Shizun looked confused, rubbing his head and asked, Tsunade-sama, why did you stop so suddenly? Tsunade did not answer, but stood there silently, staring straight at a store not far away. She seemed to feel that this store was very important to her. Chapter 56. Inside the Xiao store. A video was playing on the laptop. Oi! The kid is kind of hot. These words spread through Xiao's body like an electric current, causing him to shiver involuntarily, and goosebumps quickly covered his arms. He frantically slid the mouse pointer, eager to skip this embarrassing video, muttering, FK, this is too childish, just give me the candy. With the sound of the mouse clicking, the next video appeared before my eyes. This time, what caught his eyes was a tempting video. He, this one is good. I really like this one. As he said that, Xiao couldn't wait to reach out to feel for the place where the napkins were placed, ready to reward himself. However, after searching for a long time, he found nothing. He couldn't help but frown and muttered to himself, oh, that's not right. I remember putting the napkin here. Why is it gone? Not finding the napkin, Xiao anxiously stood up from the recliner and began to look around for the missing napkin. The room was filled with a tense atmosphere. Xiao opened his eyes wide and searched every corner carefully. Finally, he caught a glimpse of the familiar pack of napkins beside an inconspicuous counter. He quickly bent down to pick up the napkin on the ground, a satisfied smile on his face, and returned to the recliner happily. After lying down, Xiao quickly took out some toilet paper and wanted to relax. After all, he had been working for so many days in a row, couldn't he enjoy himself? But just when Xiao was about to enjoy it, a clear and pleasant doorbell sounded suddenly, welcome. The sudden sound was like a thunderclap, which frightened Xiao so much that his whole body trembled and his hands became flustered. He hurriedly closed the notebook, fearing that someone would see the secret inside. At the same time, he crumpled up the few pieces of toilet paper he had just pulled out and stuffed them into his trouser pockets, muttering, why did you come at this critical moment instead of earlier? Although he was very upset, Xiao still pulled himself together, slowly stood up from the recliner, and tried to force a smile, looking towards the store entrance, welcome. However, when Xiao saw who was coming, he was stunned. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief, oh my god. Walking in front was a woman with golden hair. She was extremely beautiful, with a diamond-shaped mark on her forehead and the two huge radiums on her chest, which made people unable to take their eyes off her. Before seeing the person, you can see his chest. Although he is over 50 years old, he still looks young. Xiao immediately recognized that this is the gambler among Konoha's prostitution, gambling, and drugs, Senju Tsunade. He met Orochimaru before, and now he has met Tsunade. All he needs is Jiraiya, and Xiao will be able to gather all the Konoha's yellow gambling and drug dealers. Tsunade and Shizun behind her walked into the store together, looking around curiously. From the moment Tsunade stepped through the door, the strange feeling deep in her heart became more and more turbulent. Lady Tsunade, look at how luxuriously this store is decorated. The things inside are definitely not cheap. Let's go quickly. Shizun tugged at the corner of her clothes and advised softly. Then, Tsunade ignored Shizun's advice, rolled her eyes at her, and whispered, "Stop talking nonsense, I have my own pace." Seeing Tsunade's look, Shizun sighed helplessly. Sure enough, Tsunade-sama still refused to listen to her advice as usual. She gently stroked the pig in her arms. "When I can't afford to eat, I can only eat you." Tun, who had been squinting his eyes in enjoyment, seemed to understand what Shizun said and opened his eyes wide in horror. Xiao didn't notice the whispers between the two. He walked up to them and said with a smile, "What do you need? We have everything." Hearing Xiao's exaggerated words, Tsunade did not show any doubt at all. On the contrary, she felt a strange sense of trust in her heart, as if she believed that what the young shop owner said was true. This strange feeling made her feel surprised. After a moment of silence, Tsunade suddenly looked at Xiao with a serious face and asked expectantly, "Boss, do you have anything that can improve luck?" Hearing this, Xiao was a little surprised. He asked curiously, "Excuse me, why do you want to improve your luck?" "Boss, I really like gambling, but I always lose money every day because of bad luck. Now I owe millions of dollars." Tsunade clapped her hands angrily, "If I had better luck, I would definitely be able to win back all the money I lost before." After hearing Tsunade's explanation, Xiao remembered that in the original work, Tsunade would always lose in every gambling, so she was called the fat sheep of the ninja world by people in the gambling world. As long as Tsunade was in the gambling game, others only needed to bet against her to make a fortune. Naturally, all the money they earned belonged to Tsunade. Who would have thought that as a Konoha-sunin, she actually owed a lot of debts outside. Sometimes when debt collectors come to his house, he has no choice but to run away. If Tsunade wasn't so strong, he would have been caught by the creditors and had to pay off his debts with his body. Tsunade lost for so many years, and finally won a bet with Jiraiya, but Jiraiya died in the rain country. It was miserable for her. "Boss, do you have such a product?" Tsunade found that Xiao was silent, and her heart tightened. Could it be that there is no product here that can improve luck? Hearing Tsunade's question, Xiao came back to his senses. He smiled and said, "Of course I have items that can improve your luck, but I'm afraid this kind of thing is not suitable for you." Hearing this, Tsunade's originally expectant expression was gradually replaced by deep disappointment. She hung her head and walked towards the door listlessly, muttering to herself, "Oh, I understand, boss. It seems that I am destined to be an unlucky person in this life." Seeing Tsunade so depressed, Xiao quickly explained, "I haven't finished talking yet, don't leave in a hurry. Although the luck-enhancing products are not suitable for you, isn't it easy to win every time you gamble?" "What? Is this true?" Tsunade's eyes lit up when she heard this, as if the fire of hope had been rekindled. She turned around suddenly and looked at Xiao with expectation. "Of course it's true. You know, gambling doesn't just rely on luck. What's more important is your own strength and skills." Xiao answered confidently. Chapter 57. Gambling doesn't just rely on luck, it also relies on strength and skills. Tsunade muttered to herself. She seemed to have discovered a new world, and looked at Xiao excitedly, "Boss, then I want products that can improve my strength and skills." "Okay, I'll find it for you right away." Xiao quickly walked to a counter and took out a book. There were a few big words written on the cover of the book, "King of Kings." This book introduces in detail poker cheating, mahjong cheating, dice cheating, etc. As long as you learn the contents of the book, you will be able to win every gamble. Xiao explained. Tsunade stared at the book in Xiao's hand with fiery eyes and swallowed. "Boss, how much is this book?" "Not expensive, only 200,000 taels. Compared to other items in the store, this price is indeed not expensive. After all, this is just a basic teaching book, whether you can learn it or not is another matter, so the price is naturally not that expensive." Of course, Tsunade naturally doesn't know this. "I want it!" Tsunade said excitedly, "Shizun, pay now." She has already begun to imagine the scene in the future when she will master the skills in the book and become a big winner at the gambling table. Hearing Tsunade's words, Shizun's expression suddenly changed, and he hurriedly reached out to cover his wallet, and asked in disbelief, "Master Tsunade, do you really want to buy this book?" Tsunade nodded without hesitation, "Of course, it's just 200,000 taels. Once I learn the skills in the book, I will definitely be able to make a lot of money. Then I will take you to eat and drink delicious food. After saying that, Tsunade patted his chest a few times and made a solemn promise. What Shizun didn't know was that in the future Tsunade would not only fulfill this promise, but also let her live a life of counting money until her hands cramped. Seeing Tsunade's confident look, Shizun sighed helplessly. She felt that Tsunade was deceived by this boy. How could there be such a thing as winning every time you gamble in this world? Although she couldn't explain why Tsunade always lost every time he gambled, she still didn't believe it. But Shizun knew that even if he tried his best to persuade Tsunade, he would never listen. In desperation, Shizun could only take out a scroll from his pocket. Coincidentally, at this moment, the money left on the two of them was exactly 200,000 taels of silver. Tsunade quickly handed the scroll to Xiao. After Xiao took the scroll, he handed the book to Tsunade. She took the book and began to open it impatiently. When she saw the contents of the book clearly, her breathing suddenly became rapid. At that moment, a picture emerged in her mind. She was standing on the top of the ninja world, revered and worshipped by everyone, becoming a well-deserved gambler god. This cannot be blamed on Tsunade. It is just that the first sentence of the opening is too shocking. For Tsunade, who loves gambling and always loses, such temptation is simply irresistible. The first sentence in the book reads, "Back then, Chendeazai learned the contents of this book and won 37 million with 20 yuan. He, if I learn it, then wouldn't it be possible for me to win 37 million with $20? Tsunade grinned, "From now on, please call me Gambling Monster, the monster of monsters." Shizun saw Tsunade's state and quickly stretched out his hands to shake her shoulders vigorously, calling out anxiously, "Tsunade-sama, what's wrong with you? Don't scare me." Shizun shook her like this, and Tsunade came back to her senses as if she had just woken up from a dream. She realized that she had just lost her composure and couldn't help blushing. She hurriedly raised her hand and quickly wiped the saliva hanging from the corner of her mouth. In order to hide her embarrassment, she casually asked, "Boss, I wonder how long it will take to learn all these gambling techniques." "It takes about 10 years to get started, and it may take even longer to become a grandmaster." Xiao answered after thinking for a moment. "What? 10 years?" Tsunade yelled, "Why didn't you tell me it would take so long at the beginning?" Facing Tsunade's questioning, Xiao spread his hands innocently, scratched his ears nonchalantly, and responded lightly, "Hey, you didn't ask me just now." After hearing this, Tsunade was so angry that she almost fainted. She wanted to punch the BD in front of her twice to vent her hatred. Those 200,000 taels were all her belongings. "But, there is actually a way to become a grandmaster instantly," Xiao said. Hearing this, Tsunade suppressed the urge to punch Xiao. "What method?" "Wait a minute." Xiao walked towards the counter again and took out a book. The cover of this book was particularly eye-catching, with a few large characters printed on it, "King of Kings hardcover edition." After seeing the words on the cover, Tsunade felt like she had been fooled. She clenched her fists tightly and could even hear the crackling sound from her joints, as if she was going to punch Xiao and beat him to a pulp in the next second. Seeing this, Xiao quickly explained, "Kaido-sak, this is not an ordinary book, this is a skill book, which allows the user to learn the skills in the book instantly." Hearing this, Tsunade immediately unclenched her fists and asked excitedly, "You mean I can master it directly without learning?" "That's right. How much is this bendo?" Tsunade asked curiously. Xiao slowly stretched out 3 fingers, 30 million taels, "Don't think it's expensive, there are 3 kinds of tricks in it, poker, mahjong, and dice. Once you have mastered these skills, won't you be able to win at the gambling table? Winning money is as easy as drinking water. It's only a matter of time before you get your money back." After hearing Xiao's explanation, Tsunade swallowed the words that were about to come out of her mouth. She nodded in agreement. It was indeed as Xiao said, if you really lose every time you gamble, then winning tens of millions is only a matter of time. "Boss, keep the book for me. I'll go back and get the money." Tsunade ran out quickly, "Shizun, wait here for me. Don't let anyone buy this book from me." Looking at Tsunade's leaving back, Shizun was confused. Lord Tsunade just left him here like that? Where did Master Tsunade get the money? Thinking of this, Shizun hurriedly chased after him, "Master Tsunade, you can't sell the clan land. Yung Xiao. What was going on? If Yung Xiao hadn't been hallucinating, Tsunade was actually planning to sell the Senju clan's land? If the deceased Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama knew about this, they would definitely be very angry. Especially if Senju Tobirama knew about this, I'm afraid he would be so angry that he couldn't even hold it down. However, now Tsunade is the only one left in the Senju clan, so it's better to sell him off to prevent others from coveting him. Yung Xiao murmured. P.S. I feel a little dizzy, so the update is a little later than usual. I will give free gifts to readers who like it. Chapter 58. Boss. I'm back. With this shout, Tsunade ran into the store carrying a huge black bag. Lord Tsunade, please slow down, wait for me. Shizun followed closely behind Tsunade, gasping for breath, and spoke with difficulty. Originally, Shizun wanted to stop Tsunade from selling the Senju land, but Tsunade ran so fast that she couldn't catch up with him at all. When Shizun finally arrived at the gate of Konoha village, he saw Tsunade already walking out of the village carrying a huge bag. What is on Tsunade's shoulders? You can guess with your A. This is definitely the money from selling the clan land. Seeing this scene, Shizun was petrified on the spot. She never expected that Tsunade's actions would be so quick. She was just a little late, and the cold Senju land turned into warm money. When Tsunade saw Shizun, the smile on her face suddenly froze. She asked in disbelief, Shizun, what are you doing here? Didn't I tell you to guard the book in the store? Shizun was almost crying in anxiety. It seemed that Lord Tsunade was really fooled by that boss and actually sold the clan land to buy a book. She was about to open her mouth to admonish Tsunade, but before she could say anything, Tsunade said anxiously, if you don't keep the book, what if someone steals it? As he said that, Tsunade hurriedly carried a sack of banknotes and rushed towards Yung Xiao's shop. Shizun shook her head helplessly and followed him. If she had known this would happen, she would have stayed in Yung Xiao's shop obediently from the beginning. This trip almost exhausted her to death. Yung Xiao was a little surprised to see Tsunade come back so soon. He thought that he would not come until at least in the evening. He did not expect that Tsunade would come back with the money in such a short time. It seems that this King of Kings hardcover edition is very tempting to Tsunade. Tsunade carried the sack and walked to Yung Xiao, then put the sack on the ground, wiped the sweat off his face, and said with a smile, Boss, I brought the money, please count it. Yung Xiao nodded and began to count the money in the bag. Because there was a lot of money and Yung Xiao was not good at math, it took him a lot of time to count all the money. The total amount of money Tsunade brought was 35 million taels. By the time Yung Xiao finished counting it all, he was already sweating profusely. Because Yung Xiao suddenly discovered that his commission was actually tens of thousands less. He asked the system and found out that the system charges a handling fee for helping Yung Xiao count the money. This made Yung Xiao feel that the system was too deceptive, so he planned to count the money himself. But after counting the 30 or 5 million, he became completely obedient. If the system wants to charge a fee, then let it, and the money will be earned by the system. If Black Zetsu and Obito saw Yung Xiao counting money at such a snail-like speed, they would probably laugh at him mercilessly. After all, as a famous thief duo in the ninja world, they once set an amazing record of accurately counting out a huge sum of more than 3 billion in just one day. In comparison, Yung Xiao really pales in comparison. Yung Xiao took out 30 million taels from the bag and put it into the system space. Then, he happily took out the King of Thousand Kings hardcover edition from his arms and handed it to Tsunade. Tsunade took the book with shaking hands. She carefully rubbed the cover with her fingers, feeling the unique texture and feel, which made her very excited. Boss, how do I use this book? Tsunade asked with a trembling voice. Yun Xiao smiled slightly and explained, you can directly obtain the skills in the book by tearing it off. After hearing this, Tsunade couldn't wait to open the King of Kings hardcover edition. However, surprisingly, although the book looked thick, after opening it, I found that there were only 3 pages inside. These 3 thin pages are marked with 3 eye-catching titles, Poker, Mahjong, and Dice. Without any hesitation, Tsunade decisively tore off the 3 fragile pieces of paper one by one. At this moment, a miracle happened. The torn papers suddenly shone with dazzling golden light as if they had life, and turned into countless tiny golden spots at an astonishing speed. These small spots of light flew into Tsunade's body quickly and accurately, and then disappeared without a trace. At the moment when all the small dots of light were absorbed into his body, countless exquisite skills of gambling emerged from the depths of Tsunade's brain like a tide. Tsunade was surprised to find that she was familiar with all kinds of gambling rules, techniques, and psychological tactics, as if she had gone through thousands of trials and tribulations to become an unparalleled gambling master. This sudden ability made Tsunade have an illusion that she was the legendary gambling god who had never tasted failure. With this magical ability, Tsunade can even clearly hear the subtle sound of the dice rolling, and accurately judge the number each dice will eventually stop at. This extraordinary hearing and judgment makes Tsunade like having a pair of perspective eyes in the casino, and he is always successful. At this moment, Tsunade felt an unprecedented powerful force surging in her body. She firmly believed that as long as she wanted, she could instantly change the bad cards in her hand into enviable good cards. This sudden change made Tsunade, who always lost in gambling, very excited. She felt that she was incredibly strong now. Ha ha ha, it's actually true. I really became the god of gamblers. Tsunade was so excited that she couldn't control herself. She laughed heartily, and her voice echoed throughout the room. Shizuan, who was standing by, was completely at a loss. She stared with wide eyes at Tsunade-sama, who seemed to have lost his mind, and her heart was filled with confusion and worry. What happened to Master Tsunade? Not only was he tricked into selling his clan land to buy a crappy book, but now he seems to have gone insane. Shizuan almost cried when she saw Tsunade's sudden abnormal behavior. If Lord Tsunade really became a fool, what should she and Tuntun do? Tsunade-sama, are you okay? Shizuan asked cautiously, his voice as soft as a mosquito, fearing that his sudden voice would scare Tsunade and make Tsunade's already serious illness worse. Shizuan did not see the scene where the book pages turned into light spots and entered Tsunade's body, so she just thought that Tsunade was affected by some mysterious power, causing his mind to become confused. She prayed secretly, hoping that Tsunade would recover as soon as possible and not fall into this crazy state again. Chapter 59. Hearing Shizuan's words, Tsunade came back to her senses as if she had just woken up from a dream. She quickly bent down, held the purse on the ground tightly with one hand, held Shizuan with the other hand, and ran out of the store quickly. A hearty and heroic laugh rang out from outside the door. "Boss, we're leaving first, see you later." Before she finished her words, the two of them disappeared without a trace like lightning. Xiao walked to the door and watched the two people walk further and further away until they disappeared. He couldn't help but chuckle and shook his head, muttering to himself, "Perhaps, from today on, Tsunade's title will change from Fat Sheep to Gambling God." There was an indescribable light in his eyes, as if he had already seen the scene of Tsunade killing everyone in the casino. The capital of the Fire Nation. "Lord Tsunade, is everything you said true?" Shizuan's eyes widened, his face full of disbelief. "Of course, we will definitely make a lot of money this time," Tsunade promised solemnly. It turned out that while on the way, Tsunade happily told Shizuan everything about the miraculous gambling skills he had acquired in the store. After hearing Tsunade's explanation, although Shizuan didn't believe in her heart that there were such outrageous things in the world, she thought that Lord Tsunade was most likely trapped in the illusion cast by the boss and was fooled and lost his way. But seeing how confident Lady Tsunade was, Shizuan couldn't bear to dampen her enthusiasm. Shizuan could only sigh silently and reluctantly accept the fact that Tsunade had been cheated. Just assume that all the money had been lost by Tsunade in gambling. Tsunade saw a casino not far away and was very excited. She quickly pulled Shizuan towards the casino and said, "Shizuan, just watch how I won 50 million with 5 million. Shizuan didn't say anything. She had already seen the scene where Tsunade would lose everything. After all, before every gambling, Tsunade-sama would make such a solemn promise, and then lose all the money not long after. At this moment, several burly men with hideous faces and scars all over their faces suddenly appeared and surrounded Tsunade and Shizuan. One of the big men rubbed his hands excitedly. "Master Tsunade, are you here to pay back the money?" As he spoke, his greedy eyes were fixed on the purse in Tsunade's hand. Hearing this, Tsunade realized that she had previously borrowed 5 million in high-interest loans from this casino and lost it all. Tsunade subconsciously put the purse behind him. Seeing this, the sturdy man immediately looked annoyed, frowned, and asked in a bad tone, "Master Tsunade, are you going to default on your debts and become a deadbeat?" Hearing these words, Tsunade's mouth twitched involuntarily. Now that things had come to this, she had no choice but to reluctantly hand the bag in her hand to the burly men. Tsunade was very upset. If she had known, she should have changed to another casino, and come back to pay back the loan shark when she won money. Now, he has really died before he could accomplish his mission. After getting the money bag, several people began to carefully count the silver inside. After a while, they finished counting. The big man in the lead nodded with satisfaction and grinned, "Well, not more, not less, exactly 5 million taels. Since you are a regular customer here, I won't charge you interest this time." After that, he casually threw the empty purse back to Tsunade. Tsunade looked at the empty cloth bag in her hand, wanting to cry but unable to. How could she gamble without a penny? Chendeazai had at least borrowed 20 yuan back then, but now she was penniless, without even the startup capital. At this moment, she was like a tiger trapped in a cage. Although she possessed extraordinary gambling skills, she had nowhere to use them. This feeling drove her crazy to the extreme. She shouted angrily, "Damn it! If that damn old man hadn't taken it upon himself to change the Senjo land into a commercial area, how could I have only sold it for over 30 million? It turns out that when Tsunade returned to the Senjo land this time, he found that the original Senjo land had been demolished and converted into a commercial area several years ago. Only the houses where his great-grandfather Senjo Hashirama and his second-grandfather Senjo Tobirama lived were left, and Tsunade had no choice but to sell these two houses. But what was unexpected was that these two houses alone were sold for more than 30 million taels. If the entire Senjo clan's land was added together, it would definitely be sold at a terrifying price. It's hard to imagine how much money Sarutobi Hiruzen embezzled. Just when Tsunade was in despair, a silver note of 10,000 taels suddenly appeared in front of her. Tsunade looked up in disbelief and saw Shizuan handing the silver note to her. Shizuan smiled and said, "Master Tsunade, you must win this time. Otherwise, Tuntun will become our dinner today." Tsunade took the banknote and said seriously, "Don't worry, Shizuan, I'm sure I'll win this time, just watch carefully." With that, Tsunade walked into the casino, the word gamble on her back standing out in the sunset. Back then, Chendeazai won 37 million with only $20. Today, I, Tsunade, want to follow his example. As he said that, Tsunade stepped into the casino. The originally noisy casino, at the moment Tsunade came in, everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Tsunade excitedly. Some new gamblers curiously asked the people around them, "Who is this person? Why do you have such expressions? You don't even know the legendary fat sheep in the gambling world." "What? She is the legendary fat sheep." "That's right, she always loses every time she gambles. As long as you bet against her, you will definitely make a lot of money." After hearing this explanation, those who didn't know Tsunade originally looked at Tsunade with enthusiasm, as if they had discovered some rare treasure. Everyone saw Tsunade walk to a gambling table, and in an instant, they all swarmed to the gambling table where Tsunade was sitting. The game played at this gambling table was a game of betting on the size of the dice. The dealer in charge of shaking the dice began to shake the dice cup in his hand skillfully, and at this time Tsunade's ears trembled slightly, and she had already heard the specific number of the dice. Tsunade opened her red lips and said, "I bet big." Before she finished speaking, she took out a full 10,000 taels of silver from her pocket without hesitation and placed it on the table. Seeing this, everyone bet on the smaller points, and no one chose to bet on the larger number with Tsunade. After the dealer confirmed that both parties had placed their bets, he slowly opened the lid of the dice cup. However, a jaw-dropping scene appeared. The number on the dice on the table was big. Those gamblers who were confident that they would win looked at the points on the table in disbelief. For a time, various doubts arose one after another. "Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. How can it be big? P.S. I have a fever these 2 days, so the writing may not be good. If there are any problems, please let me know and I will revise it." "Oi, you little brats, I have a fever but you still insist on typing, are you sure you don't want to reward me with gifts?" Chapter 60. Inside the casino. Tsunade glanced at the shocked expressions on the faces of the people around her, the corners of her mouth curled up, and she felt secretly happy. She had never won so much money in all her gambling years like today. If it were before, Tsunade would have been lucky if she didn't lose all her capital, let alone win money. Because no one chose to bet the same as Tsunade, all the chips on the table belonged to Tsunade, which made her very happy. This amount of money was at least hundreds of thousands of taels. Tsunade happily took the money in her arms. Looking at the money, Tsunade was very excited. She was getting better. She could actually win money in the casino. Are you guys coming yet? Tsunade asked with a bright smile on her face. Hearing this, the gamblers who were immersed in shock finally came to their senses as if awakened from a dream. In an instant, the originally quiet casino became noisy again. The gamblers were in high spirits, rubbing their hands and staring at the complacent Tsunade with fiery eyes, as if they wanted to eat her alive. Obviously, they all thought that Tsunade was just lucky, and the win or loss of a game did not mean anything. Of course we have to continue. Laozi refuses to believe in evil, there is absolutely no way she can win this time. That's right, a lucky win doesn't matter. That's right, one bit of bad luck doesn't mean anything. Humph, let me see how I can make this BCH return all the money she won to us double. Tsunade looked at the gamblers' angry expressions and nodded with satisfaction. She was afraid that these gamblers would not want to gamble with her anymore. Seeing this, the dealer in charge of shaking the dice put the dice into the cup and started shaking it. Seeing this, everyone subconsciously held their breath, not daring to make any sound that would affect their judgment. Ding-ling-clang, the sound of the dice hitting the cup wall is particularly obvious in the quiet casino. Suddenly, the croupier put the cup on the gambling table and shouted, "You can place your bets now, everyone. Bet and leave, bet and leave." After hearing the dealer's call, the gamblers did not place their bets immediately, but instead looked in the direction of Tsunade. Seeing everyone looking at her, Tsunade scratched her ears and said, "Why are you all looking at me? Why don't you place your bets?" Then, Tsunade took out half of the bills and threw them on the gambling table. "I'm betting big this time." Seeing Tsunade's wealth, the gamblers were instantly excited. The fat sheep was still the same fat sheep as before. Even if they won by chance, they were just a fat sheep with better luck. A gambler took out his money without hesitation and slammed it on the table, shouting, "Damn it, Laozi is betting on a small number." "Me too," echoed another gambler. Seeing this, the other gamblers seemed to be under a spell. They rushed to take out their money and bet on small points. They all thought that Tsunade couldn't possibly win this time. How could he win twice in a row? The dealer standing by watched all this expressionlessly. After everyone had placed their bets, he slowly picked up the cup. The moment the cup was picked up, the gamblers stretched their necks and widened their eyes to see the points on the plate clearly, for fear of missing any details. However, when they finally saw the number on the dice, the confident expressions on their faces disappeared instantly, and were replaced by an expression of disbelief. The originally noisy casino suddenly became silent. After an unknown amount of time, one person finally came to his senses and shouted at the top of his voice, "What a joke! How can this be possible?" Then, several more gamblers shouted indignantly, "Why? When did her luck become so good? This is not fair. I'm really lucky. Come again." Laozi doesn't believe that 3 consecutive big numbers will be big. There was no need for Tsunade to say anything, as the gamblers who had lost all their money could no longer suppress their inner impulse and started a new round of gambling on their own. Tsunade took the money from the table and placed it in front of him, signaling the dealer that he could start. Seeing this, the dealer immediately put the dice into the cup and began to shake it frantically. After a long time, the dealer put the cup on the gambling table and said, "Everyone, you can place your bets." "Damn it, Laozi is betting on small." A gambler took out a stack of money and put it on the table. "Me too, it's impossible for 3 consecutive times to be big." "Exactly. Unless there is something fishy going on in this casino, how could it be possible that the bets were all big 3 times in a row?" As they spoke, the gamblers took out their money and threw it on the gambling table without hesitation. When Tsunade heard what these gamblers said, she couldn't help but show a very strange expression. Because she had heard that the number of points on the dice was really big this time. Tsunade subconsciously cast his eyes towards the dealer who was shaking the dice. At this moment, the dealer's face was as pale as paper, and a layer of dense beads of sweat had already appeared on his forehead. Obviously, faced with such a tense and exciting situation and the aggressive looks of many gamblers, the poor dealer has fallen into extreme panic. After all, he was just a novice dealer who had just joined the job and had not received formal professional training from the casino. He didn't know how to change the number of the dice in the cup, so he was assigned to the ordinary field. But he didn't expect that a big shot would appear in the ordinary field today. He didn't know whether it was luck or strength, but he had guessed the points in the cup twice in a row. Seeing the group of gamblers looking at him with suspicion, the dealer felt under tremendous pressure. If the points in the cup are still high next time, the consequences will be extremely serious. Thinking of this, the dealer couldn't help but tremble all over, his mind in chaos. "I'll bet big," Tsunade said confidently, her lips curled up. Before she finished speaking, she threw the stack of bills in her hand casually into the middle of the table without hesitation. Seeing Tsunade place the bet so decisively, the dealer couldn't help but tremble all over. Could it be really that big? He tightly grasped the cup in his hand, sweat dripping down his forehead, and prayed in his heart, "God bless me, please don't let it be a big number this time." However, the opposite happened. When he opened the cup tremblingly, the number on the dice in front of him was just as Tsunade expected, still a big number. FK. Why is it big again? What the hell is going on? A gambler couldn't help but curse. Damn it! There must be something fishy going on. Otherwise, how could it be possible to do it so many times in a row? Yes, it's definitely a shady deal. For a moment, shouts rang out one after another throughout the casino, "Shady deal! Shady deal! Shady deal!" Everyone was very emotional and accused the gambling game of being fishy. Faced with the angry scene, the poor dealer had already turned pale and sweated profusely. He desperately shook his head and waved his hands, trying to explain to everyone that he had not cheated at all, but no one was willing to believe him at this time. In fact, the dealer knew better than anyone that he really didn't do anything tampering. Even if he really wanted to, he wouldn't. Looking at the chaotic scene in the field, the dealer was almost crying. At this moment, he was really more wronged than Doi. Chapter 61. The second floor of the casino. A group of people dressed in fancy clothes, obviously upper class, were sitting around a gambling table, with thick stacks of chips placed in front of them. Everyone had an expression of excitement, nervousness, or calmness on their face, and their eyes were fixed on the card game in front of them, as if they wanted to see through the thin cards to see into their opponent's mind. The whole scene was filled with a tense and exciting atmosphere that made people's heart beat faster. Suddenly, a loud noise came from downstairs, breaking the original tranquility on the second floor. A man with a slicked back hair and a cigar in his mouth was immersed in his own thoughts, but was disturbed by the discordant sound. He frowned unhappily and said to a burly man in a suit beside him, "Go and see what happened." Upon hearing this, the burly man in the suit immediately nodded respectfully and then left the second floor. Downstairs. After understanding what happened, the burly man in a suit looked at the group of gamblers with a bad expression. He said coldly, "We don't even care about your little tricks. If you dare to make trouble again, don't blame us for being rude." Hearing this, the gamblers who were originally angry suddenly dared not speak. The man in the suit was filled with confusion and curiosity. Who on earth was so bored that he would come to a place like this to fry fish? When he saw who it was, his eyes widened in disbelief, and it took him a long time to come back to his senses. Isn't this the legendary fat sheep in the gambling world? However, when his eyes fell on the mountain of money in front of Tsunade, he couldn't help but gasp, and his heart was filled with turmoil. I didn't expect this fat sheep to win so much money. No wonder those people reacted so strongly. At this time, the man in the suit rolled his eyes and immediately put on a flattering smile. "Master Tsunade, you see, this floor is too ordinary and not very challenging. How about we move to the private room on the second floor to play a few games? There are many masters there, and I guarantee you will have a great time." Hearing this, Tsunade was quite surprised. You know, she has lost no less than 7 or 8 million here. She can be said to be a frequent visitor to this casino, but she has never heard of the second floor here. She nodded and said, "That's exactly what I meant." As she said that, she was about to follow. At this moment, Shizuan suddenly grabbed Tsunade's clothes. "Tsunade-sama, we have won so much, let's go." Shizuan was afraid that Tsunade would lose all the money he had won with great difficulty. "Don't worry, Shizuan, I'm incredibly strong now," Tsunade assured, patting his chest. Seeing this, Shizuan nodded and followed silently. Second floor. The group was a little surprised when they saw the man in the suit bringing a woman up, as they didn't know Tsunade. "Would you like to play a few rounds?" The man with slicked back hair said with a smile after hearing the explanation from the man in the suit. "The minimum bet here is 1 million. Can she afford it?" A blue-haired young man said disdainfully while playing with the chips in his hand. Hearing this, Tsunade took out the money downstairs and handed it to the dealer beside him. "Please change it into chips for me," Tsunade won a total of 1.2 million downstairs, almost winning all the money of all the gamblers downstairs. I am dying of laughter. I thought it was a lot of money, but it turned out to be only over a million. Hearing this, everyone started laughing. Tsunade looked at them with an unhappy expression. She took off her coat and handed it to Shizuan. Shizuan, go find a tailor shop and have the word God embroidered on the back. As she said that, Tsunade took out a stack of money from her chest and handed it to Shizuan. Shizuan nodded without saying anything, took the money and left with his coat. Did you hear that? The god of gamblers, it really made me laugh to death. That's right, she didn't think that she could cheat us just because she won some money from those low-level people, right? In secret, the ninjas who were hired to protect this group of people widened their eyes in horror after seeing Tsunade. This was Tsunade, one of the Sunin of Konoha. They all prayed silently in their hearts, hoping that their employer would say less. If Tsunade was really annoyed, they would not be able to beat him. Tsunade sneered, I hope you guys can still laugh after this. The dealer began to shake the dice. Everyone fell silent and listened carefully. Tsunade frowned. She could tell that the sound of the dice was wrong, but she didn't say anything. Snap! The dealer put the dice on the table. As expected, in the next few games, Tsunade kept winning, while the others had some wins and some losses. Let's not play dice, that's too easy. Let's play poker, said the blue-haired young man. There was no way. He lost the most in these few games, already losing more than 10 million. Whatever you want. Tsunade spread his hands indifferently. You guys play, I won't play, said the man with his slicked back hair, smiling. Tsunade didn't say anything when she saw this. She had long seen that there was something wrong with this slicked back man. He must have tampered with the dice. After the man with the slicked back hair stood up, the dealer began to deal the cards. The blue-haired young man became excited after seeing the cards in his hand. All in. With this roar, he pushed down the mountain of chips in front of him without hesitation, making a crisp and loud crash. Tsunade silently glanced at the cards in her hand, then put them back on the table, tapped the back of the cards with her fingers, and then pushed the chips in front of her down. I'm going all in too. The remaining few people saw the two people's crazy behavior and immediately stood up. Who could afford to gamble like this? You guys play, my stomach hurts a bit. My grandmother is about to give birth to my father. I have to go back to see her. What, your father is going to be born? I'll go see him too. Open your cards, the blue-haired young man said confidently, and then showed his cards. He was confident that he would definitely win, and the opponent's chance of winning was only 1%. After seeing his whole cards, Tsunade smiled slightly and said, sorry, I won. Then she showed her whole cards. When everyone saw Tsunade's cards, their pupils shrank. The gambling skills of the people present were all at the pyramid level, but they couldn't see how Tsunade did it. The man with slicked back hair murmured, her gambling skills are better than mine. How is this possible? The blue-haired young man widened his eyes in disbelief. He had been staring at Tsunade's movements, and it was impossible for the other party to do anything under his nose. Why is this happening? The blue-haired young man said in despair. Just then, Shizuan came back with the coat in her arms. She handed the coat to Tsunade. Tsunade-sama, how was it, did you win? Tsunade took the coat and put it on. Of course. She put away the chips on the table. How did you do that? Want to learn? I'll teach you. Really? The young man asked excitedly. Fake. With that, Tsunade left with Shizuan. Several people silently watched Tsunade's back as she left. At this moment, the words God of Gamblers on her back were particularly conspicuous. They knew that Tsunade's gambling skills were far superior to theirs, and several of them murmured, it seems that we have hit a wall this time. After Tsunade left, the blue-haired young man realized that he had been tricked, and angrily shouted to the darkness, help me kill her, and I will give you 30 million. The Jainin hired by the blue-haired young man. Chapter 62. The Fire Nation. Extra, extra, a shocking event has happened. The highly respected and admired third Hokage of Konoha village has stepped down due to a huge amount of corruption. The new Hokage is actually... I saw a group of white zetsu waving newspapers that smelled of ink and shouting at the top of their lungs on the streets of the Land of Fire. The figures of the white zetsu suddenly appeared in people's field of vision, but did not cause panic among the residents. After all, they had long been accustomed to the sudden appearance of white zetsu. Because, starting from a few days ago, this group of white zetsu would appear on the streets every morning, hawking all kinds of news and information. The newspapers sold by white zetsu are densely packed with all kinds of the most popular and eye-catching news and information from various countries in the ninja world. Not only are these news sources authentic and trustworthy, without any falsehood, but they are also first-hand information collected by white zetsu in various places. This newspaper also records in detail many major events that have happened recently and those jaw-dropping melons. You know, eating melons is human nature. For this reason, since the publication of white zetsu's newspaper, it has quickly swept the entire ninja world like a whirlwind, and has been sincerely loved and sought after by the majority of ninja residents. Today's newspaper is quite interesting. Give me one, shouted a middle-aged man with a big belly. Okay, boss. Hearing the shout, one of the white zetsu hurried over, took out a newspaper from his arms and handed it to the other party. After the middle-aged man took the newspaper, he took out a tael of silver and threw it to white zetsu. I wish the boss a prosperous business. Before he finished speaking, he heard another shout from a distance, hey! Give me a newspaper over here too. Coming, coming. White zetsu responded and ran over quickly. What? That old guy from third generation stepped down. Who is the new Hokage? Give me one too. Before long, all the newspapers in white zetsu's hands were sold out, and this happened all over the ninja world. The middle-aged man from before curiously unfolded the newspaper, and what caught his eye were a few eye-catching words, advertising space for rent. Seeing this, the middle-aged man's mouth twitched, and he continued to look down. The ninja mercenary organization, Akatsuki, is expanding to the entire ninja world. The organization only recruits strong members, weak ones are not allowed. The specific salary and benefits will be discussed in person. The interview location is Rain Shinobi Village, and the interviewer is Kakuzu. Akatsuki? I've never heard of it. It looks like they paid to rent advertising space. Who knows, it might be some fake organization. He then looked down. Yesterday, the treasury of Rock Shinobi Village in the Land of Earth was robbed by an unknown gang. The loss was huge. Third Tsuchikage Onoki decided to organize a 5-cage meeting to unite the villages to catch the culprit. This thief in the ninja world is indeed powerful. He has already offended all 5 major nations. If he is caught, he will be punished. After an unknown amount of time, he finally saw the news he wanted to see. Sarutobi Hiruzen, the third Hokage of Konoha village, abused his power and imposed heavy taxes during his tenure, and was eventually forced to step down. The fifth Hokage is currently Senju Tsunade, but since Tsunade himself is currently missing, Shimura Dan's, one of Konoha's advisors, will temporarily serve as the acting Hokage. Tsunade isn't in the village? Where did she go? A casino in the Fire Country. All in. Tsunade pushed all the chips in front of him and said in a heroic tone. Everyone present was shocked to see Tsunade's confidence. You know, the man sitting opposite Tsunade is the new generation of gambling god who has become famous in the Land of Fire, Hakuwa Teppan. This legendary figure's gambling skills are amazing. I didn't expect that Tsunade would be so confident in going all in when facing such a figure. Hakuwa Teppan looked at Tsunade with a sullen face and said in a deep voice, Ms. Tsunade, the cards haven't been dealt yet, are you so confident that you can beat me? Tsunade leisurely picked up a cigar and said with a smile, of course, I guarantee to win. As he said that, he put the cigar in his mouth and held it. This cigar is not for smoking, but for showing off. Yesterday, she saw the man with slicked back hair holding a cigar in his mouth in the casino, which made him look very impressive, so she also bought one, which was indeed very impressive. Seeing Tsunade so confident, Hakuwa Teppan was furious. He snorted, since Miss Tsunade is so confident, why not increase the stakes a little more? Whoever loses will keep his right hand. FK. They're making such a big deal out of it. You know, the right hand is very important to a gambler. Losing the right hand means you will never be able to gamble in your life. Everyone subconsciously looked at Tsunade, wondering if she would agree. Hearing this, Tsunade spread his hands and said, if you want to play, I'll play with you. After Tsunade finished speaking, everyone burst into exclamations again. They didn't expect Tsunade to really agree, and for a moment everyone began to guess who the final winner would be. After the dealer dealt all the cards, Hakuwa Teppan breathed a sigh of relief after seeing his cards. He smiled and said, Ms. Tsunade, it looks like I won. As he said that, he confidently revealed his whole cards. Oh shit, a straight flush. Looks like Rishuan Taibon is going to win for sure. Hearing the exclamations of the people around him, Hakuwa Teppan's mouth curled up. Ms. Tsunade, do you do it yourself or do you need someone to help you? Tsunade smiled and said, you should keep this to yourself. Upon hearing this, Rikuwa Teppan and the people around him were stunned. You know, Rikuwa Teppan's cards are very big, and there is no bigger card than his except the leopard. But why is Tsunade still so confident? Could it be that her card is a leopard? Thinking of this, everyone shook their heads and threw away the unrealistic thoughts in their minds. What a joke, a leopard requires 3 identical cards, and the probability of this is very low. Miss Tsunade, stop arguing. Unless you are a leopard, you will lose, said Hakuwa Teppan with a smile. Sorry, I really am a leopard. Tsunade turned over the cards, revealing 3 aces. FK, it's really a leopard. I didn't expect that Hakuwa Teppan Yaki would really lose. Hakuwa Teppan stood up suddenly and looked at the 3 A's in disbelief. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. He suddenly pointed at Tsunade angrily, you are definitely cheating. After hearing what Hakuwa Teppan said, Tsunade hadn't spoken yet, and the dealer spoke first. Mr. Hakuwa Teppan, we are the largest casino in the Fire Country. Are you questioning our professionalism? Hakuwa Teppan subconsciously shrank his neck. Although he was a new gambling god, the power behind this casino was something he couldn't afford to offend. Cut off Mr. Rishuan's right hand, the dealer said coldly. Hearing this, several strong men pressed Rishuan Taibon on the table. Ignoring his cries for mercy, one of them took out a machete from behind and was about to chop at his right hand. Wait! Tsunade suddenly shouted. Hearing the voice, the man stopped what he was doing and looked at Tsunade curiously. Hakuwa Koban was delighted, thinking that Tsunade was going to let him go, and was about to thank him, but when he heard Tsunade's next words, he was petrified on the spot. Wait until I leave before you chop. Tsunade quickly stood up. Shizuan, let's go. Before he finished speaking, Tsunade hurriedly pulled Shizuan out of the casino. Chapter 63. Eastern Fire Nation. Oh my, what a headache. The ninja world is so big, who knows where Tsunade is hiding. Jiraiya leaned against a big tree with a sad face, shaking his head and sighing. 2 days had passed since he left Konoha village to search for Tsunade in the land of fire. In the past 2 days, Jiraiya has gone to so many places, but he still hasn't seen Tsunade's shadow. Just at this moment, a passerby walked past him, and Jiraiya asked quickly, excuse me, have you seen a woman with yellow hair? Hearing this, passersby stopped and asked curiously, are there any other features? Her breasts are big. Jiraiya replied after a slight hesitation. How big is it? The man immediately became interested. Hehe, it's so big. Jiraiya said, and seriously stretched out his hand to make an exaggerated shape. Hehehe, it's indeed very big, but I've never seen it. After saying that, the man left on his own. Looking at the man's back as he walked away, Jiraiya said unhappily, you've never seen him before, so why are you asking around? As he said that, Jiraiya squatted on the ground. Damn it, where on earth did Tsunade go? Jiraiya said anxiously, scratching his head. Tsunade left Konoha many years ago and never returned to the village. Now the village urgently needs her to serve as Hokage and take charge of the situation, but she is nowhere to be found. Just when Jiraiya was extremely anxious, a voice suddenly sounded in Jiraiya's ears. Hello Mr. Jiraiya. I heard that you are looking for Tsunade. I have some information about her, would you like it? Who? The sudden voice made Jiraiya instantly alert. He looked around but couldn't find the owner of the voice. Stop playing tricks and come out now. Jiraiya said coldly. Mr. Jiraiya, I'm down there. Hearing this, Jiraiya looked down and saw a white head popping out of the ground. Mr. Jiraiya, I'm stuck, can you help me? Hey? Got it. Jiraiya grabbed White Zetsu's head and pulled it out of the ground. Jiraiya looked at the White Zetsu in front of him with a strange expression. What was this thing? Why had he never seen it before? White Zetsu shook his head, then took out a business card from somewhere and handed it to Jiraiya. Mr. Jiraiya, I am an employee of Ninja World All-Known Service Co., Limited, employee number 007. I am happy to serve you. Jiraiya took the business card and muttered, Wan Shitong Service Co., Limited. Yes, Our company has the most advanced intelligence system in the ninja world. We have dedicated employees to record all matters, big or small, that occur in the ninja world. It can be said that our company has all the information you want to know. 007 explained. After hearing 007's explanation, Jiraiya asked suspiciously, "Is this true? Mr. Jiraiya, you were caught peeping into the women's bathhouse 3 days ago and were seen everywhere." Jiraiya quickly interrupted 007, Stop, stop, stop. I believe in the accuracy of your company's intelligence." 007 smiled and said, "It has to be accurate. A coworker told me that you are looking for Tsunade's whereabouts, so I came here to ask if you need to buy information." Hearing this, Jiraiya said excitedly, "Yes. Tell me where Tsunade is." "Okay, Mr. Jiraiya wants to purchase information on Tsunade's exact location, right?" 007 asked. "Okay, please pay 100,000 taels first, and I'll ask someone to find it." Jiraiya did not hesitate and took out 100,000 ryo and handed it to White Zetsu. "Okay, payment is successful. Someone has been sent to look for it. We expect to get a reply within 5 minutes." Jiraiya was a little surprised. He didn't expect it to be so fast. He thought it would take at least half a day, but it only took 5 minutes. As expected of a big company, the efficiency is so fast. 5 minutes later. "Mr. Jiraiya, we have found Tsunade's exact location. Please pay 100,000 ryo for this service." "What? There's a service fee?" Jiraiya exclaimed. 007 rolled his eyes, "Of course I have to pay for coming all this way to serve you." Jiraiya's mouth twitched, and he took out another 100,000 taels and handed it to 007. "Okay, a special employee will come to show you the way later. This service has ended. We look forward to seeing each other again." With that, 007 dived into the ground and disappeared. Jiraiya was confused. Could he have been scammed? He beat his chest and stamped his feet. "I never thought that I, Toad Sage Jiraiya, would have such a day." Just then, another White Zetsu emerged from the ground. "Hello, I'm the White Zetsu who'll be leading you this time. My employee number is 0007. I'm happy to serve you." Jiraiya looked at this White Zetsu, and the more he looked at it, the more it looked like the White Zetsu from before. "FK, why is it still you?" "That's right, Mr. Jiraiya, it's still me. But my work number and position are different from before." As he said that, 0007 took out another business card and handed it to Jiraiya. Jiraiya was silent for a while before he said, "Then please lead the way." "Okay, Mr. Jiraiya, but before that, please pay 500,000 ryo for the guide fee and 100,000 ryo for the labor fee." "Didn't I just pay it?" "Well, Mr. Jiraiya, what you just paid was 007's service fee and information fee, and what you have to pay now is 0007's guide fee and labor fee." Jiraiya took out 600,000 ryo with a painful look on his face and handed it to White Zetsu. "Okay, Mr. Jiraiya, we are ready to go. However, before that, I need you to give me a 5-star rating for this service and attach a 100-word review." As he spoke, White Zetsu took out a form and handed it to Jiraiya. Jiraiya's forehead was bulging with veins. He gritted his teeth and said, "Are you FG done yet?" "Mr. Jiraiya, this is the company's rule. I'm just a poor worker. There's nothing I can do." 0007 said pitifully. Seeing this, Jiraiya sighed, took the form and began to write, "The underwear is of very good quality, melts in the mouth, does not stick to the pan when washed, and children especially like to eat it. Okay, thank you for your cooperation. Let's start the race now. Please follow me." White Zetsu said, and started running wildly. Jiraiya breathed a sigh of relief. Finally no more trouble was caused, and he was about to follow. I saw the White Zetsu in front suddenly stop and then turn back. "Sorry, Mr. Jiraiya, I went the wrong way just now," 0007 said with a smile, scratching his head. "Jiraiya, I feel like this company is not as professional as it claims. What should I do if an unscrupulous company makes false claims?" Waiting online, very urgent. Chapter 64. Outside a casino in the Fire Nation. "Mr. Jiraiya, we have arrived at our destination and this navigation has ended. I wish you a happy life and we look forward to meeting again." 0007 was about to leave with great joy, as he had earned a lot of money from Jiraiya, the grudge. This money did not need to be reported and was considered his personal income, so he did not need to pay taxes. But at this moment, Jiraiya suddenly stopped it and said, "Wait a minute, can you help me find the exact location of Orochimaru?" Hearing this, 0007 explained, "Mr. Jiraiya, Orochimaru-sama is one of our company's top fighters. We have no right to disclose his personal information." Jiraiya. How could Orochimaru be a thug for this unscrupulous company? And he's a gold medalist. The members of Akatsuki are indeed the thugs of Black Zetsu, because Black Zetsu invited Akatsuki to join before registering the company and promised high rewards. When Nagato learned that by joining the company, he could not only broaden Akatsuki's mission channels, but also earn high commissions, he agreed without hesitation. As a result, Akatsuki's missions are now all over the ninja world, and Akatsuki is in urgent need of manpower, so it has been recruiting new members. Because there are too many missions to handle, Nagato, whose leg injury has been healed, has to use pain 6 paths again, and one person can do 6 things. Stop talking nonsense. The price is negotiable as long as you can tell me the exact location of Orochimaru. Jiraiya said. 0007 was obviously moved, but he still insisted on his so-called principles. Oh my! Mr. Jiraiya, you really put me in a dilemma. After all, this involves a matter of principle. I am just an ordinary employee. In principle, I am not qualified to tell others the whereabouts of the company's senior management. However, before 0007 could finish his words, Jiraiya interrupted him and said, 2 million, tell me his exact location right now. Hearing the price, 0007 suddenly laughed, ha 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 ha, Mr. Jiraiya, look at what you are saying. Aren't you my principal? Come on, I will take you to find Master Orochimaru. Seeing this, Jiraiya knew that this white Zetsu was a money-grubbing guy. If money didn't impress it, it meant that the money was too little. Don't worry, let me deal with Tsunade's matter first. Jiraiya said and walked into the casino. Okay, Mr. Jiraiya, take your time, I have plenty of time. 0007 shouted. After Jiraiya entered the casino, 0007 rubbed his hands excitedly. Although the company has clear regulations that prohibit the disclosure of any information about company members, I really can't resist it. Mr. Jiraiya gave me too much. Ha ha ha, these 2 million are all my personal income. 0007 laughed loudly. After all, this kind of thing must never be known to the company. As long as it keeps it secret, all the money will naturally be its. 0007 took out the worksheet and began to record. Successfully completed the mission issued by Jiraiya to find Tsunade. This operation earned a total of 500,000 taels of commission. According to regulations, 80% of it must be handed over to the company, so today I earned 100,000 taels of commission. Judging from the skilled look of this guy, it seems that he has done this kind of thing more than once or twice. If Black Zetsu knew about this, they would definitely set up a special inspection team to investigate whether the employees in the company have evaded taxes or embezzled public funds, and then start an anti-corruption storm. Inside the casino. Boss, you lose. Tsunade raised his lips slightly and put a cigarette in his mouth. Shizuan saw this and quickly took out a match and carefully lit the cigarette for Tsunade. Oh my god, which casino is this? The 7th one. Miss Tsunade has already defeated 7 casinos in a row, and she has won every time without losing once. Hiss. A sound of people gasping for breath suddenly came from all around. At this moment, the casino owner sitting opposite Tsunade had a face so gloomy that it seemed as if water could drip out of it. After a long silence, he finally spoke slowly, Ms. Tsunade, I lost. From now on, this casino belongs to you. After that, the casino owner waved his sleeves violently, turned around and left angrily. Oh my god, even the famous gambling king can't beat her. She is so strong. I'm afraid there is no one in the whole Fire Nation who can match her. Of course not. Look at the 2 big characters, god of gamblers behind her. They are so majestic and impressive. This is such a grand occasion. For a moment, the entire casino was buzzing with discussion, and everyone's eyes were focused on Tsunade, filled with awe and admiration. Just then, Jiraiya walked in. He saw Tsunade in the crowd at a glance, and he said excitedly, Tsunade, I finally found you. Oh, it's Jiraiya. Tsunade put out the cigarette in her hand, come with me. As she said that, she walked up to the 2nd floor of the casino. In the room. What do you want from me? Tsunade took out a cigarette from his pocket expressionlessly and put it into his mouth skillfully. Tsunade, I'm sure you already know about the old man's abdication. I came here this time to ask you to return to the village and serve as Hokage. Jiraiya said. With a light click sound, Tsunade struck a match and lit the cigarette beside her mouth. She took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled the smoke. That old guy is not only corrupt, but also demolished the Senju tribe's land while I was away. Hearing Tsunade's words, Jiraiya coughed twice to try to ease the atmosphere. Ahem, you know that after the Nine Tails rebellion, the village's economy has declined sharply, so the old man resorted to this desperate measure. Humph, I heard that the Sarutobi clan's land was renovated very magnificently. Ahem, as long as you return to the village and serve as Hokage, these things will change. Tsunade shook her head. I'm not interested in being a Hokage. You should find someone else. Why? Jiraiya was anxious. Tsunade picked up the poker cards on the table and started playing. My goal is to become the gambling god of the ninja world, so I have to constantly challenge all the gambling masters in the ninja world, and then step on them to get to the top. Hearing this, Jiraiya's mouth twitched. He knew how bad Tsunade's gambling skills were. A long time ago, when the three of them were completing a mission together, Tsunade couldn't walk when he saw a casino, but every time he entered a casino, he would lose everything he had. But Tsunade refused to admit defeat and asked him and Orochimaru to borrow money to make back his investment, but in the end he still lost everything. Chapter 65. Ha ha ha, Tsunade, stop joking. With your gambling skills, you still want to be the god of gamblers? You'd better come back to the village with me and inherit the position of Hokage. Jiraiya laughed. Although he was professionally trained, Tsunade's words really made him unable to hold back. In Jiraiya's memory, Tsunade seemed to lose every time he gambled. If it had happened before, after hearing Jiraiya's words, Tsunade would definitely have broken down and beaten Jiraiya violently. After all, lies hurt no one, the truth is the sharpest knife. But now the times have changed. Tsunade is no longer the fat sheep who always loses in gambling, but a gambling god in the ninja world who is about to reach the top. Seeing Tsunade remain silent, Jiraiya realized that he would be beaten for slandering Tsunade like this. He closed his eyes, ready to be beaten by Tsunade. But after a long time, the imagined fist did not hit him. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Tsunade throwing a newspaper in front of him. You don't seem to believe what I say. Then take a look for yourself. It's on the second to last line in the lower left corner of page 4. Hearing this, Jiraiya curiously picked up the newspaper and found the location Tsunade mentioned. Shocked. Just yesterday, the Fire Nation's new gambling king, Hakuwa Teppanyaki, lost to Princess Tsunade. 5 of the Fire Nation's 7 major casinos have already lost to Princess Tsunade. Jiraiya looked at the contents of the newspaper, then looked at Tsunade in front of him. Is this still the Tsunade he remembered? Could it be that some unscrupulous newspaper published this false information? Jiraiya muttered. He focused his eyes on the newspaper's signature, wanting to see which unscrupulous newspaper published the content. Ninja World All-Knowing Co., Limited Intelligence Agency. Jiraiya's mouth twitched. He didn't expect that this company's business was quite wide. But if it was the content released by this company, it might really be true. When did you become so good at gambling? Jiraiya asked in disbelief. I've been gambling for so many years, my gambling skills must have improved. It's impossible for me to lose all my life, right? Tsunade said unhappily. That's true. Jiraiya looked at Tsunade seriously. So, you really don't plan to return to serve as Hokage? Tsunade nodded. Yes, I have no interest in being Hokage. Seeing this, Jiraiya sighed. I understand. He knew the temper of his old friend. Once she made the decision, no matter how others persuaded her, it would be useless. After all, Jiraiya doesn't have Naruto's good words that can fool others. Jiraiya stood up. Since you don't want to, I can't force you. There are so many people in the village that we can always choose the right person to inherit the Hokage. If that's not possible, let Shimura Dance officially become the Hokage. Hearing this, Tsunade smiled and said, given Shimura Dance's personality, if he really becomes Hokage, the old man will be in trouble. Haha, this is all the old man's fault. I won't say any more. I still have to go find that guy Orochimaru. Jiraiya turned and left. After Jiraiya left, Tsunade sighed, I can't become Hokage in my current state. During the ninja war, Tsunade witnessed her lover Kaido Dan die in front of her and then suffered from hemophobia. Since then she lost her so-called dream and felt that everyone who wanted to become Hokage was an idiot. Suffering from hemophobia, she has difficulty being a ninja, let alone a Hokage. Thinking of this, Tsunade smiled and said, "How can being a Hokage be as fun as being a god of gamblers?" Before she finished her words, the playing cards in her hand suddenly turned into Ace of Spades, and then in the blink of an eye, they all turned into Two of Hearts. If this scene was seen by the gamblers outside, they would definitely rush to the kitchen to get the money. Outside the casino. "Mr. Jiraiya, you are here. I have already investigated the exact location of Lord Orochimaru. When will you leave?" 0007 said respectfully. "Now," said Jiraiya. He hadn't seen his old friend for quite some time. After learning that Orochimaru had defected, he had been looking for Orochimaru, but unfortunately, Orochimaru hid too well, and he hadn't found him in all these years. "Okay, Mr. Jiraiya, let's go to the rain country and set off now." 0007 started running as fast as he could. The land of rain. Hearing the name of this country, Jiraiya couldn't help but think of the children he met in the land of rain more than 10 years ago. At first, Jiraiya felt sorry for them, so he taught them ninjutsu, hoping that they could survive in this chaotic world. Unfortunately, those children died in the end. "Mr. Jiraiya! Mr. Jiraiya!" The voice of 0007 in the distance brought Jiraiya back to his senses. "Coming! Coming!" Jiraiya hurriedly followed. Rain Country, Rain Shinobi Village. 0007 sneaked into the village with Jiraiya. It whispered, "Mr. Jiraiya, Rain Country is the territory of Akatsuki. You must be careful here. If you are discovered, don't give me away, otherwise I will be finished." "Isn't Rain Shinobi Village the territory of Hands of the Salamander?" Jiraiya asked curiously. "Mr. Jiraiya, you are so out of date. Hands of the Salamander was killed by the leader of Akatsuki several years ago." 0007 whispered. "What? Hands of the Salamander is dead?" Jiraiya exclaimed. "SHH. SHH. SHH. 0007 was almost crying. Just as it said to keep a low profile, Jiraiya shouted so loudly the next moment. "Why are you yelling so loudly?" Jiraiya quickly shut up, showing an apologetic expression, and whispered, "I'm sorry, I was so shocked just now that I couldn't help myself. You know, Hands of the Salamander is known as a demigod. Such a person was killed by the leader of the Akatsuki organization. How powerful must this leader be?" 0007 quickly looked around and found that no one was paying attention to this side, and immediately breathed a sigh of relief. "Mr. Jiraiya, you almost scared me to death just now. If Lord Kakuzu finds out, it will be troublesome." Hearing this, Jiraiya asked curiously, "Who is Kakuzu? Is he very powerful?" 0007 explained, "Lord Kakuzu is the interviewer for the Akatsuki organization. You need to apply to enter the village. If he finds out that I sneaked you in, it will be difficult to explain." Jiraiya nodded. "Is the Kakuzu you are talking about the one with green eyes, a mask on his face, the forehead protector of the renegade ninja of Long Ninja Village on his head, and a black-red cloud robe on his body?" 0007 exclaimed, "Mr. Jiraiya, I didn't expect you knew Kakuzu-sama. If you had told us earlier, we wouldn't have to sneak in." Jiraiya shook his head. "I don't know Kakuzu." Hearing this, 0007 was a little surprised. "You don't know Kakuzu-sama, so why do you know his appearance so well?" Jiraiya swallowed, "Because he's right behind you." 0007. Chapter 66. What are you two doing sneaking around? At this moment, Kakuzu's cold voice sounded behind it. Hearing this, 0007's body stiffened. It turned its head tremblingly and saw Kakuzu not far away looking at them with a gloomy face. "It's over. It's over. I've really been discovered by Lord Kakuzu. There's really no escape now. If I had known, I wouldn't have been so greedy." Although 0007 was extremely panicked, as it was engaged in fraud and customer service business, it had already reached the state of not showing its emotions on its face. 0007 still pretended to be calm and said with a smile, "Haha. Lord Kakuzu, the weather is nice today, so I came out for a walk." While speaking, he did not forget to scratch his head awkwardly, trying to hide his inner uneasiness. However, it seemed that the heavens did not want to give 0007 this face. Before he finished speaking, there was a loud boom and thunder exploded in the sky. The rain shinobi village, which was originally just drizzling, suddenly began to rain heavily. 0007 and Jiraiya. Damn it, how come the drizzle turned into heavy rain just after I finished speaking? God is acting like this. Kakuzu wiped the rain off his face and said, the weather is really nice. Tell me your work number. Hearing this, 0007 almost cried, Lord Kakuzu, you can't do this. If Lord Black Zetsu finds out, I'll be finished. Kakuzu deadpanned, you sneaked into the rain shinobi village without following the rules. I suspect you have been bribed and leaked the organization's information. 0007 felt like the sky was falling, and it quickly explained, Lord Kakuzu, please listen to my explanation, things are not what you think. But 0007 opened its mouth for a long time, not knowing how to explain. Because Kakuzu actually guessed correctly, 0007 was indeed bribed by Jiraiya, and he did leak the information about Orochimaru in the organization. Oh? Then can you explain it? Kakuzu asked with interest. 0007 was even more devastated. It seemed like it really didn't know how to explain. It couldn't admit that it was really bribed by Jiraiya, right? If Kakuzu knew about this, wouldn't all the money it had worked so hard to get from Jiraiya be wasted? Not only will you lose your money, but the company will also find out that you are secretly taking on extra income. That would be the end of you. If Black Zetsu knew that it was evading taxes, they would definitely take away all the money it had worked so hard to earn. Maybe I would even be assigned to another hard and tiring position. Thinking of this, 0007 became anxious. He didn't want to go out to sell newspapers on the streets in such a hot day, and he didn't want to do the disgusting and smelly job of carrying manure. Just thinking about that scene was enough to make his stomach churn. 0007 suddenly came up with a good idea. He quickly trotted to Kakuzu, took out a thick stack of banknotes from somewhere, and handed it to Kakuzu respectfully. Lord Kakuzu, I met this man in the Land of Fire. He said he was eager to join the Akatsuki organization. This is the money he gave me. He said he wanted me to say a few good words for him in front of you. I think it's more appropriate for you to take this money. Kakuzu narrowed his eyes slightly and took the money calmly. He had been dealing with money for many years, and as soon as he got the money, he used his rich experience to judge that the stack of banknotes in his hand was no less than 100,000 taels. Kakuzu patted 0007's shoulder with satisfaction and said, You are quite interesting, what is your employee number? 0007 was immediately excited when he heard the praise in Kakuzu's tone. He quickly straightened up and replied, Report to Lord Kakuzu, I am the deputy team leader of the intelligence department, employee number 007. Kakuzu nodded slightly and said with a smile, For a talent like you, it is indeed a bit of a waste of talent to work in the intelligence department. From today on, you will come to the interview team and work with me. After all, white Zetsu who understands the ways of the world are rare, so Kakuzu naturally wants to recruit such talents under his command. Thank you, Lord Kakuzu. 007 bowed quickly to express his gratitude. Doesn't that guy want to join the organization? Let him come with you. As he said that, Kakuzu walked towards the base of Akatsuki. He, this is really unexpected. I thought I just got away with it by luck, but who would have thought it would be a blessing in disguise and I got the opportunity for promotion. 007 said in surprise. From now on, it is no longer an unknown deputy customer service team leader, but has been promoted to the chief interviewer of the Akatsuki organization. You know, there is only one interviewer for Akatsuki, Kakuzu, and now he has become the second interviewer for Akatsuki. His promotion is not a small one. Perhaps, except for Afe, there is no one in White Zetsu with a higher position than him. It can truly be said that he is, second only to Afe, and above 10,000 others. Didn't you bring me here to see Orochimaru? Why are you asking me to apply for Akatsuki? Jiraiya asked in confusion. After being asked by Jiraiya, 007 finally came to his senses. He said unhappily, How dare you say that? If you hadn't made such a big noise, would you have attracted Lord Kakuzu here? I had no choice but to say this. Hearing this, Jiraiya scratched his head, laughed dryly and said, Is that so? But it doesn't matter, since Orochimaru is also in this organization, it's okay for me to join it. Okay, stop talking. Let's get going quickly. It won't be good to keep Lord Kakuzu waiting for too long. 007 urged. Now Kakuzu is his new boss. He cannot leave a bad impression on his boss as he has just started working. This will make his boss think that he is an unreliable employee. 007, who is well versed in the ways of the workplace, will not make such a low-level mistake. Akatsuki Base, Interview Hall. Kakuzu sat in front of a wooden table, his hands naturally crossed. In front of him, there was a delicate wooden sign with the words Akatsuki Chief Interviewer Kakuzu engraved in vigorous and powerful fonts. 007 picked up the kettle on the table and carefully poured tea into Kakuzu's cup. Kakuzu took a sip of the tea, feeling the bitter and sweet taste. After putting down the teacup, his eyes fell on Jiraiya standing opposite him again, and he slowly said, "Just briefly introduce yourself." Jiraiya was having her first interview, and she seemed a little nervous when facing Kakuzu's questions. "Hello, interviewer. I'm Jiraiya from Konoha village in the land of fire. I'm a novel writer, and my hobby is peeping into women's baths." 007, Kakuzu. Chapter 67. Ahem, what's your hobby, can you tell me again? Kakuzu picked his ears, thinking he had misheard. "My hobby is peeping into the women's bathhouse." Jiraiya repeated. "That's what I told you. I must have heard it wrong. How could your hobby be peeping?" Kakuzu stopped talking abruptly. Damn, this guy's hobby is really to peek into the women's bathhouse. Why do I feel like this guy is a bit dishonest? Kakuzu sighed. As a mercenary organization in the ninja world, as long as the individual strength is strong enough, some special quirks are no big deal. How strong are you? Our Akatsuki organization only recruits elites and absolutely does not accept idiots. If you are not strong, you can just go out and turn right. There is no need to waste time. Kakuzu said. Ever since Akatsuki placed an in the newspaper, people have come to Kakuzu for interviews from time to time, but unfortunately, no one is capable of fighting. In all these days, no one has been able to pass Kakuzu's interview. I think our casino is pretty strong. Jiraiya said with a smile. Sir Kakuzu, he is Jiraiya, one of the Sunin of Konoha. During the battle with Hans of the Salamander during World War II, he was recognized by Hanzo, who then gave them the title of Sunin of Konoha. It is worth mentioning that Sir Orochimaru is one of the Sunin. 007 explained. Hearing this, Kakuzu immediately became interested. So, you and Orochimaru were comrades before. During World War II, Kakuzu was busy making money everywhere and did not know the details of what happened in the ninja war. Yes, I came to Akatsuki this time just to find Orochimaru. Jiraiya said. Oh? You mean, the original purpose was to find Orochimaru, right? Kakuzu asked suddenly. Squeaky squeaky. Hearing the voice, Jiraiya subconsciously looked over and saw 007 winking at him. 007 was almost crying. Jiraiya is such a bad teammate. Didn't I stress this to him before? If Kakuzu-sama asks, just say he's here for an interview. Now, Jiraiya has obviously forgotten what he said before. I hope Jiraiya can understand my hint. 007, what's wrong with you? Why are you blinking all the time? Jiraiya asked curiously. 007. Kakuzu looked at 007 meaningfully, and asked casually, how much do you want 007 to help you find Orochimaru? It cost 2 million, it's really expensive. Jiraiya's words suddenly froze, he seemed to be tricked by Kakuzu, he looked at 007 awkwardly, sorry, I didn't notice. 007 covered his face with his hands, he didn't know what to say. He felt that Jiraiya was definitely doing it on purpose, he was dissatisfied because he cheated him out of money, so he cheated him back. Who put money in my body? 007 exclaimed. As it said that, it quickly took out a scroll from its body and handed it to Kakuzu. Lord Kakuzu, someone secretly stuffed 2 million into my body. This is really abominable. Kakuzu took the scroll and said with a smile, it is indeed abominable. Fortunately, you found it in time, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous. Lord Kakuzu is right. 007 said with a painful look on his face. Damn it. I gave away the money I earned with great difficulty before I could even warm it up. I lost 2.1 million today. Jiraiya almost couldn't help laughing when he saw 007's sad look. Now he just felt happy. 007 guessed correctly, Jiraiya did it on purpose. He had long seen that 007 had been finding various ways to kill him. Since you are capable enough, you are qualified to join the Akatsuki organization, but before you join the organization, let's talk about the salary and benefits first. Kakuzu tapped his fingers on the table. A monthly salary plus commissions for completing tasks, 100,000 ryo a month is acceptable, right? Mr. Duo? 100,000 taels. Jiraiya exclaimed. Kakuzu's words shocked him greatly. You know, the reward for a sea-level mission is between 30,000 taels and 50,000 taels. And the monthly salary for joining Akatsuki is only the reward for 2 sea-level missions. You treat me as a slave, don't you? Jiraiya said excitedly. Kakuzu was a little embarrassed. Ahem, don't be so excited. The salary is negotiable. I'll give you a monthly salary of 500,000 ryo, and the mission rewards will be split 50 to 50. Is that okay? That's fine. Jiraiya nodded, but he suddenly realized a problem. Why did he have to join the Akatsuki organization and then divide his tasks into half? Jiraiya then realized that he came to the Rain country to find Orochimaru, not to join the Akatsuki organization. He was completely confused by Kakuzu and White Zetsu. I'm sorry, I'm used to being idle and don't like being restricted, so I don't plan to join the Akatsuki organization. Jiraiya said. No, I can offer you a monthly salary of 800,000. Seeing that Jiraiya was unmoved, he quickly said, no, 1 million. Kakuzu gritted his teeth as if he had made a big concession. At the beginning, Konan told him that the salary for new members was 5 million per month, and 20% of the task share would be handed over to the organization. But when it came to Kakuzu, the highest amount became 1 million, and the split changed from 82% to 50% and 50%. Fortunately, the organization did not find new members, otherwise it is hard to imagine how much Kakuzu could have embezzled. Actually, I came to Rain Shinobi village Orochimaru. Jiraiya explained. Seeing that Jiraiya really had no intention of joining Akatsuki, Kakuzu snorted coldly, you can't just meet Akatsuki members whenever you want. As he spoke, several black tentacles suddenly stretched out from behind Kakuzu, and the nanorobots in Kakuzu's body began to gather towards the tentacles. Soon, the black tentacles turned completely silver-white. Jiraiya didn't expect Kakuzu's expression to change faster than turning the pages of a book. Jiraiya looked at Kakuzu vigilantly. He sensed a strong sense of danger from the strange tentacles. I'm willing to pay 1 million as long as you can lead me to meet Orochimaru, okay? Jiraiya asked tentatively. Hearing 1 million, Kakuzu hesitated. Orochimaru is my only close friend in the organization, how could I betray him for such a small amount of money? 2 million. You know, Orochimaru is my best friend in the organization, so, he has to pay more. 007. 3 million. Deal. Kakuzu quickly took the earth wrath back into his body, shook Jiraiya's hand enthusiastically, and praised, Mr. Jiraiya is really rich and generous. You know, Jiraiya has completed hundreds of S-level missions, so this amount of money is just a drop in the bucket for him. What's more, he is also a best-selling author, and the wealth he has accumulated over the years is unknown. Jiraiya took out a scroll and handed it to Kakuzu. After Kakuzu took the scroll, he smiled and said, Mr. Jiraiya, I will take you to find Orochimaru now. Please follow me. Chapter 68. Kakuzu took Jiraiya through many twists and turns in the Rain Shinobi village and finally arrived outside Orochimaru's laboratory. Mr. Jiraiya, this is Orochimaru's laboratory, he is inside now. Kakuzu said, pointing to an iron door not far away. Kakuzu had to be disrespectful. In today's ninja world, the rich are the boss. Those who have no money can only work hard to earn money and live off the promises made by their boss all day long. Previously, Konan used 100 million to trick him into joining Akatsuki, but it turned out that he has been in the organization for more than 10 days, and the 100 million promised by Konan has not yet arrived. As long as he can serve Jiraiya well, then when Jiraiya encounters some difficult problems in the future, the first person he thinks of will be him. When Jiraiya asks him for help, the reward for the task will definitely not be small. In this way, Kakuzu will be able to quickly earn enough money to collect all the nanorobots. Thinking of this, Kakuzu's mouth curled up. He had already imagined the scene of nanorobots covering his entire body. Orochimaru, that guy, turned out to be hiding here. Jiraiya sighed. No wonder Jiraiya searched all over the ninja world for Orochimaru, but couldn't find any trace of him. It turns out that Orochimaru hid in a place like this. It would be strange if Jiraiya could find him. Orochimaru said a few days ago that he was going to retreat, and he hasn't come out for several days. Kakuzu said. Retreat? Jiraiya was a little curious, is Orochimaru doing human experiments again? Jiraiya knew that Orochimaru was doing body experiments at the beginning, but because Orochimaru used spies from other villages to do human experiments, although Jiraiya felt that it was a bit cruel, he still understood his friend's experiments. But Jiraiya didn't expect that later, due to insufficient experimental subjects, Orochimaru would cruelly capture people from the same village for human experiments. By the time Jiraiya found out about this, Orochimaru had already fled overnight. I don't know the details. He said before that he was able to draw energy into his body, so he went into seclusion. Kakuzu shook his head. Drawing chi into the body? What is this? Jiraiya asked curiously. Is Orochimaru researching something weird again? Orochimaru once said that he was cultivating immortality. As long as he successfully cultivated to the highest level, he would be able to ascend to heaven and live forever, coexisting with the heaven and earth and shining with the sun and the moon. Kakuzu recalled. FK, so exaggerated. Jiraiya exclaimed. Kakuzu nodded, yes, he did say that, but whether it's true or not, I don't know. In fact, deep down, Kakuzu believed what Orochimaru said. The reason is simple, because the martial arts book that Orochimaru practiced was bought from the mysterious boss. Kakuzu has unconditional trust in the boss. You should know that the extremely powerful nanorobot on his body was bought from the boss. Since the appearance of nanorobots, Kakuzu's strength has increased by several levels. Moreover, this is not a complete nanorobot. If he collects all the nanorobots, his strength will definitely be even stronger. By then, Kakuzu will be able to walk sideways in the ninja world. Not only does the boss's products have powerful functions, his own strength is also terrifying. He still remembers clearly that his boss slapped him against the wall with a casual slap, easily taking his life. If Kakuzu didn't have 5 lives, his grave would probably have started to grow grass. Actually, it's not certain, because Kakuzu is not sure whether the boss will build a grave for him. Whenever he recalled the scene at that time, Kakuzu would involuntarily feel fear and tremble all over. That feeling seemed to be deep in his bones and could never be erased. My thoughts gradually drifted away from the memories and returned to the present. Kakuzu spoke slowly, Mr. Jiraiya, Orochimaru is inside, you can go in and find him. Jiraiya nodded slightly and responded, oh, okay, thank you. Kakuzu waved his hands and said flatteringly, no trouble, no trouble. Mr. Jiraiya, this is our Akatsuki organization's business card, please be sure to accept it. Our Akatsuki organization is a newly established mercenary organization in the ninja world. Every member of the organization is extremely powerful, and each person has cage-level strength. If you encounter any difficult problems in the future, you can come to us. As long as you pay the corresponding compensation, we will definitely do our best to help you solve the problem. As he spoke, Kakuzu respectfully took out a golden business card and handed it to Jiraiya. Jiraiya was extremely shocked after hearing Kakuzu's introduction. He really didn't expect that Akatsuki's foundation was so profound, and its members were all cage-level strength. Jiraiya couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It was hard to imagine that if such a group of powerful people went out together to carry out a mission, they would definitely become an extremely powerful force. Even if the elite Jonin team encountered someone from the Akatsuki organization, they would probably abandon the mission and run away. Now he finally understood why Orochimaru wanted to join Akatsuki. Who wouldn't be tempted by such a powerful organization? But the only drawback might be the salary. Jiraiya solemnly put the Akatsuki's business card into his arms. His intuition told him that he might really need the Akatsuki in the future. Seeing Jiraiya accept the business card, Kakuzu smiled and said, Mr. Jiraiya, I will leave first and will not disturb you and Orochimaru from catching up. Kakuzu said as he whistled and walked towards the Akatsuki base. Although the weather is bad today, Kakuzu's mood is still very beautiful. He made a huge sum of 3.6 million today, which brought him one step closer to one of his small goals. I've come to realize that none of the leaders are good people. They can only make empty promises. I don't even know when my 100 million joining fee will be paid. Kakuzu muttered. What Kakuzu didn't know was, Nagato and Konan had no intention of fulfilling this promise. Everything requires evidence. Words are not enough. Kakuzu has no evidence to prove that Konan had promised him a joining fee of 100 million taels. Therefore, Kakuzu may never see this 100 million taels until his death. Kakuzu suffered from his lack of education. If both parties had signed an agreement at the beginning, this would not have happened. A few years later, there was a wave of signing labor contracts within the Akatsuki organization, and the promoter of this change was Kakuzu himself, who had suffered a loss in this matter. Perhaps even Kakuzu himself did not expect that the painful past he experienced would eventually become an important opportunity to promote the progress and development of the entire Akatsuki organization and benefit future members. After Kakuzu left, Jiraiya looked at the iron door in front of him and felt very excited. The person behind this door is none other than his best friend whom he has traveled thousands of miles to find, Orochimaru. Knock, knock, knock. Jiraiya knocked on the door of the laboratory. Orochimaru, I know you're in there, open the door. After a long time, there was no response. Can I just come in? Still no one responded. He, if you don't say anything, I'll take it as your consent. I'm coming in. Chapter 69. Orochimaru, I really came in. Jiraiya stood outside the door and shouted at the top of his voice. However, as time passed, the house remained quiet, without any sound. Jiraiya finally couldn't hold back his temper, rubbed his hands, and said excitedly, in this case, I'm really coming in. As he spoke, Jiraiya walked to the door, took a deep breath, and slowly put his hand on the door, trying to push it open with brute force. Jiraiya pushed hard, but the metal door still stood firmly in place, not moving at all. Jiraiya. He was stunned for a moment, then coughed twice awkwardly and comforted himself, ahem, it must be that I pushed the door at a wrong angle just now. I will definitely be able to push it open if I change the angle. As he said that, he quickly moved his body, changed his position and stood still again. This time, Jiraiya didn't dare to delay at all. He first adjusted his breathing, then mobilized the chakra in his body and gathered it on his hands. After accumulating strength, he pushed hard towards the metal door. There was a loud bang, but it was just a loud bang. Apart from the fact that the sound was a little louder, the iron door remained motionless, not even a trace was left. Jiraiya. Why can't it be opened? It must be because I didn't get enough rest yesterday. It seems I have to be serious. Jiraiya said with a serious expression. After 2 consecutive defeats, Jiraiya felt a little embarrassed, so he decided to take it seriously. Damn Iron Gate, let me show you what Toad Sage Jiraiya is. Jiraiya stepped back for a distance, then gritted his teeth and suddenly accelerated and crashed into the metal gate. Bang! There was a sound from the iron gate, louder than before, as if the whole earth was shaking. In the distance, the Akatsuki base. Kakuzu was happily counting the money he had earned today when a sudden loud noise startled him. He almost lost his grip on the banknotes in his hand and they nearly fell to the wet ground. Damn it! Who is that BD who made such a loud noise? Kakuzu hurriedly walked out of the base and looked in the direction of the sound. When he heard the source of the sound, it was in the direction of Orochimaru's base. Is Jiraiya trying to break the door? Isn't there a button to open the door next to it? Kakuzu looked confused. Maybe this is a habit of rich people. Kakuzu muttered. In fact, this is not Jiraiya's special hobby, but he has no idea what the buttons next to it are used for. Ouch, it hurts so much. Jiraiya lay on the ground, rolling around in pain. He really didn't expect that this door would be so strong. He originally thought that he could make a miracle happen with great force, but now it seems that he was overthinking. Creaky, the metal door suddenly opened from the middle to both sides. So this is how the door is opened. Jiraiya suddenly realized. No wonder he couldn't push it open, it turned out that the door was not opened by pushing, but opened from both sides. Idiot! Orochimaru looked at Jiraiya lying on the ground wailing in silence. Isn't there a door opening button here? Orochimaru said, pointing to a green button next to it. Jiraiya looked closely and saw the words open door written in large letters below the green button. Jiraiya. Jiraiya quickly got up from the ground, scratched his head and laughed, haha, I didn't notice. Then, he looked at Orochimaru curiously. At this time, Orochimaru had his hair tied up on his head, wearing a green Taoist robe, and holding a dust in his arms. He asked curiously, Orochimaru, what kind of style are you wearing? Orochimaru didn't bother to respond to Jiraiya's words, but turned and walked into the laboratory. Come in. After meeting Orochimaru, Jiraiya was very excited. After so many years, he finally found this close friend. The next step was to persuade him to return to the village. In the laboratory. Orochimaru, are you still doing human experiments? Jiraiya asked nervously. I have found a way to achieve immortality. I no longer need to conduct human experiments. Orochimaru said. Hearing these words, the big stone in Jiraiya's heart finally fell down. He breathed a long sigh of relief, secretly glad that Orochimaru had finally turned over a new leaf and walked on the right path. At this moment, his peripheral vision inadvertently swept across a vessel in the corner, and he exclaimed, Didn't you say you would not do human experiments? What is this? Jiraiya pointed at a muscular man in the vessel in disbelief. Inside the vessel was a muscular man nearly 1.9 meters tall. This man was none other than Kaido, who was captured by Obito. Orochimaru looked in the direction of Jiraiya's finger and explained, This was given to me by a member of the organization. He said that this person's physical fitness was terrifying and he was almost no match for him. But what is strange is that although his physical fitness is terrifyingly strong, he has no resistance to illusions, so I brought him here for me to study. Is there such an outrageous thing? Jiraiya was surprised. But then he quickly reacted, Then you can't make him into a specimen. Orochimaru was speechless. This man is not dead. He has been in a coma since he was hit by the genjutsu. I have tried various methods but failed to wake him up. I speculated that his brain nerves might have been damaged and he would not wake up for decades, so I threw him in the nutrient solution. After hearing Orochimaru's explanation, Jiraiya carefully looked at the man in the vessel and indeed noticed that his chest was rising and falling, indicating that Orochimaru had not lied to him. How many years will it take for him to wake up? Jiraiya asked curiously. Not sure, it may take about 30 to 50 years for him to wake up. Orochimaru said, picking up the information on the table. Jiraiya's mouth twitched, and he looked at the sturdy man in the vessel with sympathy. It's really pitiful. How did you find this place? Orochimaru suddenly asked. Haha, I spent some money and someone brought me here. Jiraiya laughed. Is White Zetsu or Kakuzu? Both. Orochimaru. He knew that these money-hungry guys were unreliable. After all, they were his colleagues. He didn't expect that they would sell him out so quickly. Why did you come to see me? Orochimaru suddenly asked. Jiraiya said seriously, I am here to take you back to the village. As long as you admit your mistakes, everyone will accept you again. Hearing Jiraiya's words, Orochimaru let out a deep and sinister laugh. Ha ha ha, you're still as naive as ever. As long as the teacher is still in office, I will never go back. The old man is gone. Orochimaru was shocked when he heard this. He asked in disbelief, Teacher, is he dead? Jiraiya scratched his head a little sheepishly, revealing a rather awkward expression, and explained softly, Well. Actually, he is not dead. He was just found to have embezzled several 100 million, so he had to resign. Orochimaru. Chapter 70. The old man has stepped down now. Orochimaru, you should come back to the village with me. Jiraiya advised. Orochimaru remained silent. He really didn't expect that his teacher would abdicate for such a reason. Sarutobi Hiruzen had been a Hokage for his entire life and was about to retire. He didn't expect that at this time, his reputation would be ruined and a stain would be left behind. This is different from what Orochimaru imagined. In his imagination, Sarutobi Hiruzen should be like the fourth Hokage Namikaze Minato. When the village is in danger, as the teacher of the Hokage, he will stand up without hesitation, in order to protect the safety of the village, and die in the battle with the enemy, so as to gain the recognition of everyone. This is exactly the ending that Orochimaru imagined for his teacher. If the teacher really died to protect the village, then the villagers of Konoha village would definitely respect him very much, and his name would go down in history. However, who could have imagined that the third Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was once highly respected and hailed as the strongest Hokage in history, was actually a person who used his position to coerce and bribe the major families to extort sky-high filial piety fees. After this matter was jointly exposed by the major families, Sarutobi Hiruzen could only step down in disgrace. Orochimaru originally thought that his teacher Sarutobi Hiruzen would go down in history with a glorious name and become a great figure admired and praised by future generations. But now it seems that this beautiful vision has become a bubble and out of reach. In fact, Sarutobi Hiruzen did make many wise and correct decisions during his tenure as Hokage. He devoted countless efforts to the prosperity and development of the village and won the love and trust of the villagers. Unfortunately, when the corruption and bribery were exposed, everything changed dramatically. All the brilliant achievements in the past suddenly became insignificant, as if they had never existed. People will only focus on the indelible stain on him and criticize him mercilessly. This is the cruel reality, and it is also the so-called human nature. Once a person makes a serious mistake, no matter how many shining points he had in the past, he will find it difficult to resist the condemnation from the public. Think of the legendary ninja Hatake Sakumo, who was known as Konoha's White Fang. He gave up his mission to save his companions, causing great losses to the village. Even though Hatake Sakumo was extremely powerful, even though he had won many military honors during the ninja war, even though even the Konoha Sunin had to respect him. But such a person, after the mission failed, instantly became the target of public criticism, suffering from the blame and complaints from the whole village. In the end, even the rescued companions turned against him and mercilessly pointed the finger at the former hero. Hatake Sakumo eventually couldn't stand being ostracized by everyone and chose to commit suicide. Even such a person couldn't resist the harm caused by rumors, not to mention Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was driven out of office because of corruption and bribery. In this case, it is almost a luxury to want to wash away the stigma and regain recognition. Sarutobi Hiruzen may only spend the rest of his life in endless regret, silently enduring the contempt of the world until the end of his life. Thinking of this, Orochimaru narrowed his eyes. The teacher must not die in such a cowardly way. It seems that I have to be the bad guy. After hearing what Orochimaru said, Jiraiya blinked and asked curiously, Orochimaru, what do you mean by that? Why don't I understand? Looking at the curious Jiraiya in front of him, Orochimaru chuckled and said, haha, since you don't understand, forget it. Some things are not the right time to tell you now. But I believe that you will understand it naturally in no time. Oh. Seeing that Orochimaru didn't seem willing to explain too much, Jiraiya nodded tactfully to show his understanding. After all, he has known Orochimaru's character for so many years. If the other party doesn't want to talk, then no matter how much he asks, he probably won't get an answer. At this moment, Jiraiya would never have thought that. Orochimaru had already begun to plan in his mind how to let their beloved teacher Sarutobi Hiruzen die in a seemingly glorious way. If he knew what Orochimaru was thinking, he would definitely try his best to stop him. Unfortunately, he didn't know. So, Orochimaru, are you willing to come back to the village with me? Jiraiya looked at Orochimaru expectantly. How he hoped to hear those three words from Orochimaru's mouth, I do. It's a pity that ideals are full and reality is very skinny. Orochimaru just shook his head. There is nothing in the village worth staying for, so I don't plan to go back. Hearing this, Jiraiya felt as if a basin of ice water was poured over his head. He instantly became extremely lost and slowly lowered his head. Before this, he had always believed that as long as he successfully found Orochimaru, he would definitely be able to convince him to return to the village. But now that he really faced Orochimaru, he deeply realized that things were far from as simple as he imagined. Just when Jiraiya was extremely disappointed, Orochimaru's next words made him see the light. These words were like a ray of light in the darkness, which lifted his spirits. When I reach the foundation building stage, I will return to the village to see my teacher. Although Orochimaru's voice was not loud, every word was clearly heard by Jiraiya. Really? Jiraiya suddenly raised his head, his eyes widened, and his face was full of disbelief. Although he didn't know what Orochimaru meant by foundation building, it didn't matter. Because he knew that as long as Orochimaru was still willing to return to the village to visit his teacher, it meant that there was still hope for everything to turn around. Orochimaru's eyes flickered as he said, really, I will go back to the village to see my teacher in 3 years at most. I hope my teacher will still be alive by then, and not die so early. Jiraiya didn't understand what Orochimaru meant. He said cheerfully, don't worry. The old man is in great health. He will definitely live another 10 or 20 years. Jiraiya was looking forward to the scene where Orochimaru and Sarutobi Hiruzen would be reunited 3 years later. That scene must be very touching. Haha, that's good. Orochimaru licked his lips, as if hinting at some unknown secret. All these subtle movements and changes in expression were completely ignored by Jiraiya, who was standing by. Since everything is fine, you can leave. I will naturally return to the village to visit my teacher when the time is right. Orochimaru said. Haha, then you must never forget. Although the old man doesn't say it, he still misses you very much in his heart. After all, you are his most proud disciple. Jiraiya scratched his head and laughed. The most proud disciple. Orochimaru murmured, don't worry, I will definitely make my name go down in history. Chapter 71. That's right, Orochimaru, you have always been the old man's most proud disciple. Jiraiya said with a smile. The young Orochimaru showed amazing talent at an early age. His intelligence, quick thinking, and strong understanding of ninjutsu made him stand out among his peers and was often praised by Sarutobi Hiruzen. At that time, Jiraiya was just a last-place student. Although Jiraiya always appeared to be carefree and indifferent on the surface, deep down in his heart, he actually envied Orochimaru very much. He originally thought that Orochimaru would always be the pride of his teacher, but he never expected that Orochimaru would defect from the village. Orochimaru waved his hand impatiently and said coldly, okay, if there is nothing else, you can leave. I have to practice next. Haha, is that so? Then I'll be leaving first. Hearing Orochimaru's words to drive him away, Jiraiya turned around and left tactfully. After all, Orochimaru had promised him that he would go back to visit his teacher later. In this way, his mission was completed, and there was really no need to stay here. Just as Jiraiya was about to walk out of the laboratory, Orochimaru suddenly asked, by the way, since the teacher has abdicated, who will be the fifth Hokage? Jiraiya stopped and paused for a moment before answering, originally, we wanted Tsunade to be the Hokage, but Tsunade was unwilling, so the position of Hokage will be temporarily held by Shimura Dance. It's normal that Tsunade doesn't want to be Hokage. I didn't expect that Shimura Dance would become Hokage. Orochimaru murmured. As we all know, Shimura Dance was deeply involved in the cruel human experiments conducted by Orochimaru. At the beginning, it was Shimura Dance who used all his human and material resources to let Orochimaru help him study Hashirama cells. Unfortunately, the experiment was not successful, but Orochimaru still helped Shimura Dance study other things. But what is unexpected is that when this horrific human experiment was exposed, Shimura Dance was able to get away with it unscathed and was not affected at all. On the contrary, Shimura Dance did not hesitate to put all the blame on Orochimaru, making Orochimaru the target of public criticism and forcing him to flee alone, while Shimura Dance himself was safe and sound. Orochimaru never thought that he would actually take the blame for Konoha's Pot King. Although the two of them were just using each other, Shimura Dance was too unkind to turn his back on him and put all the blame on him. Orochimaru suspected that the exposure of his laboratory was probably caused by Shimura Dance. He had decided to kill Shimura Dance first when he returned to the village, and then send his teacher away in style. Konoha Village, Hokage Office. HQ. Shimura Dance, who was concentrating on processing documents, sneezed without warning. Shimura Dance raised his head sharply, a trace of annoyance on his face. Damn it, it must be the damn Uchiha cursing me. If Uchiha wasn't cursing him, why would he sneeze for no reason? He picked up the tissue on the table and wiped his nose. Teacher is right, the Uchiha is a family born to be evil. These Uchiha people are getting more and more outrageous. They even dare to have evil intentions towards me. No, I can't just sit back and watch. Danzo thought to himself, his teeth chattering. He was well aware of the Uchiha family's strength and ambition. If he allowed them to grow stronger, they would become a serious threat to him in the future. Thinking of this, Danzo felt a strong desire to kill. He decided to find a suitable opportunity to completely eradicate this hidden danger. He would not hesitate to use conspiracy or force. Shimura Dance said with a twinkle in his eyes, I will never let go of anything that threatens the village. Rain Shinobi Village. After leaving Orochimaru's lab, Jiraiya sighed, now that these things are resolved, I can have some free time to write the sequel to Intimate Paradise. After all, this work is deeply loved by the majority of otakus. If we can strike while the iron is hot and launch a new chapter, it will definitely cause a bigger sensation. But before I start writing, I'd better look for inspiration first. With that, Jiraiya left the Rain Shinobi village. Akatsuki Organization Base. 007 was extremely anxious when he saw Jiraiya leaving Rain Shinobi village. How did Jiraiya's mobile meal ticket disappear? Where would he go to make money if he ran away? It looked at the dark and damp Akatsuki base in front of it, feeling the suffocating atmosphere inside, and the corners of 007's mouth twitched wildly. At this moment, he began to regret why he had joined Kakuzu so hastily. 007 felt that his future was in sight. In 007's imagination, it should be sitting at the interview table, flipping through the mountain of interviewees' resumes in front of it. All the strong men are looking at it nervously. Just one word from it can decide whether these strong men stay or go. However, the cruel reality ruthlessly shattered all his beautiful fantasies. It finally understood why Akatsuki only had one interviewer, Kakuzu, because almost no one wanted to join Akatsuki, and even if someone did, they would not meet the standards for joining the organization. It would have been better for him to continue working as a customer service representative in the company and earn some extra money. But now, not only have the millions he earned with great difficulty gone down the drain, but his life is also over. What are you standing there for? Can't you see there's no water in my cup? Hurry up and pour me some water. Kakuzu scolded. 007 felt very aggrieved. He had been in Akatsuki for a long time, but he was busy pouring water for Kakuzu. He picked up the kettle on the table and poured water into Kakuzu's teacup. After pouring the water, 007 suddenly covered his stomach and said, "Lord Kakuzu, I feel a little uncomfortable in my stomach. I'm going to the toilet." "Go ahead, White Zetsu also needs to go to the bathroom," Kakuzu muttered. After 007 walked out of the base, he looked back and saw that Kakuzu had not followed him out. Suddenly, an irresistible urge came over him, and he quickly ran towards the gate of Rain Shinobi Village. After 007 completely left the Rain Shinobi Village, it stopped and wiped away the tears that had slipped down from the corners of its eyes. It said aggrievedly, "Damn it, you really treat me as a slave, don't you? It's all up to you whether I run away or not. Run away, brothers, run away." Chapter 72. Konoha Village, Hokage Office. Knock knock knock. There was knock on the office door. "Please come in." Shimura-dan slowly raised his head, put the document he was reading on the table, and said in a deep voice. As the words fell, the door was pushed open and Narashikaku walked in with a stack of documents. "Narashikaku, what do you want from me?" Shimura-dan said with a smile. Shimura-dan still admires Narashikaku. It was Narashikaku who carefully planned and organized the major families to unite and publicly expose Sarutobi Hiruzen's unspeakable crimes, eventually forcing Sarutobi Hiruzen to roll down from the position of Hokage in disgrace. It was because of this incident that Shimura-dan was able to ascend to the coveted position of acting Hokage of Konoha Village. Although, there were some minor incidents. Narashikaku didn't understand what he meant and actually suggested that Tsunade, that yellow-haired girl, take over the position of Hokage. This made him so angry that his brain was congested and he fainted. Shimura-dan originally thought that he would never be able to become Hokage in his lifetime. After all, once Tsunade ascended to the throne, with her ability and prestige, it would be difficult for anyone else to shake her position. Unless a miracle happens, such as Tsunade dying young like 4th Hokage Namikaze Minato, but the probability of this happening is so small that it can be almost ignored. Just when Shimura-dan was lying on the hospital bed in despair, Narashikaku told him, because Tsunade had been away from the village for too long, it was unrealistic to find her to come back and inherit the Hokage in a short period of time, so the patriarchs of the major families discussed and decided that he would serve as temporary Hokage until Tsunade returned. After learning about this, Shimura-dan jumped up from the bed excitedly, as if he was not the one who fainted before. Although Shimura-dan was only an acting Hokage, he was still very happy. Since taking office as the temporary Hokage, Shimura-dan has been getting up earlier than chickens and sleeping later than dogs every day. He sits at his desk all day, dealing with all the big and small affairs in the village, but he has no complaints about it, and he enjoys it. Because this has been his dream since he was a child, and now that the dream has finally come true, how could he be tired of it? Acting Hokage, I have a document here from the daimyo of the Land of Fire. It is said to be the daimyo's appointment of the 5th Hokage. Narashikaku handed the document to Shimura-dan. Hearing this, Shimura-dan couldn't help but feel panic and uneasiness in his heart. Could it be that they found Tsunade so quickly? This news was beyond his expectations. He originally thought that he could temporarily secure the position of Hokage and enjoy the admiration of everyone, but now it seems that everything may come to nothing. Shimura-dan bit his lips tightly, his face becoming extremely ugly. He had only been in this position for a few days, and had not had time to enjoy the respectful gazes of the crowd, had not yet begun to make great plans, had not yet destroyed the evil Uchiha, and had not yet made the village bigger and stronger. Shimura Dance took the document with shaking hands, and for a moment he didn't have the courage to open it. The document seemed to have become a heavy burden, weighing him down and making him breathless. He didn't dare to look, fearing that the daimyo would formally appoint Tsunade as the 5th Hokage. Seeing Shimura Dance's nervous expression, Narashikaku raised the corner of his mouth. If Tsunade wasn't in the village, how could Shimura Dance be the Hokage? He knew that Shimura Dance was not a good person and had done many bad things behind the scenes. Now that the document appointing Tsunade as Hokage had finally come down, the old man could go away. Finally, Shimura Dance tremblingly opened the document. However, when his eyes touched the eye-catching title, he was struck by lightning, his body trembled violently, and the blood color on his face disappeared without a trace in an instant, turning as pale as paper. The title read, 5th Hokage Appointment Notice. 5th Hokage Appointment Notice. Shimura Dance's lips trembled uncontrollably, and his voice became hoarse and unpleasant due to extreme shock. Damn it, the thing I'm most worried about has happened. He couldn't understand why they found Tsunade so quickly. He had only been the Hokage for 3 days, and he hadn't even had time to fully experience the pleasure of power, but everything was going to end so hastily. Shimura Dance was a little disappointed, but he continued to read the following content. The villagers of Konoha village elected Senju Tsunade as the 5th Hokage, but since Tsunade himself is unable to serve as Hokage for various reasons, the daimyo have decided to appoint acting Hokage Shimura Dance as the 5th Hokage. After Shimura Dance finished reading the above content, he opened his mouth in disbelief. Time passed minute by minute, and the surroundings fell into silence. Only Shimura Dance's heavy breathing could be heard clearly. After a long time, Shimura Dance finally came back to his senses. He suddenly laughed, ha ha ha. I finally became the Hokage. I am the Hokage now. Narashikaku, who was standing by, was confused by the sudden change. He looked at Shimura Dance with a puzzled look on his face, not knowing what was going on. With strong curiosity, Narashikaku reached out and picked up the document on the table and read it carefully. As his eyes wandered between the words, Narashikaku's expression became more and more ugly, and finally his eyes widened in shock, and his eyeballs almost popped out. What the hell is wrong with the Fire Nation's daimyo that he would allow someone like Shimura Dance to be the official Hokage? Looking at the extremely excited Shimura Dance in front of him, Narashikaku felt like the sky was falling. Narashikaku knew Shimura Dance's personality and character very well. This person was insidious, cunning, ruthless, and would do anything to achieve his ambitions. Looking at Shimura Dance's face distorted by excitement, Narashikaku couldn't help feeling a sense of despair. Thinking of this, Narashikaku felt extremely regretful. It would be better to let Sarutobi Hiruzen continue to serve as Hokage. Compared to Shimura Dance, Sarutobi Hiruzen is countless times better than him. Although Sarutobi Hiruzen is corrupt and accepts bribes, he is still very reliable in doing things and he will really do his job when he is paid. As for Shimura Dance, it was hard to say. Narashikaku suspected that Shimura Dance would not ask for huge wealth from them, but would lead all the roots and Anbu to raid their homes. Narashikaku prayed silently, hoping that Shimura Dance would be able to correct his previous bad habits after becoming Hokage, otherwise their family would be in real trouble. Chapter 73. Ahem, Lord Hokage, I have something else to do, so I'll leave first. With that, Narashikaku ran out of the Hokage's office with an anxious look on his face. It's over. This time something is really wrong. Shimura Dance really became the Hokage, Konoha village has no future. Narashikaku couldn't wait to tell the patriarchs of the major families the news so that they could make timely preparations. You know, there is a huge difference between the power of the acting Hokage and the official Hokage. The power of the acting Hokage is not great. Even the Hokage's exclusive troops, the Anbu, the acting Hokage has no right to mobilize. The Anbu will only take action if the life of the acting Hokage is endangered. Now that Shimura Dance has officially become the Hokage, it means that all Anbu members will obey his command. Together with the roots he has cultivated, these two departments together will become a terrifying force, enough to threaten their families. If Shimura Dance was dissatisfied with one of the families, it would be easy to exterminate them. Thinking of this, Narashikaku trembled. No, I have to tell them about this as soon as possible. Hokage's office. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that I would become the official Hokage. Shimura-dan said excitedly as he looked at the appointment letter in his hand. He had read the appointment letter no less than 5 times. He was so excited that he almost fainted when he thought about officially becoming the Hokage. "Someone come!" Shimura-dan suddenly shouted. As soon as he finished speaking, 8 people kneeling on one knee with animal masks on their faces suddenly appeared in the Hokage's office. Of these, 4 are members of Root and the other 4 are members of Anbu. Looking at the 4 Anbu that appeared, Shimura-dan's was very excited. These guys finally listened to him. 3 days ago, Shimura-dan's wanted to call out these Anbu, but he almost lost his voice and they didn't come out. In desperation, Shimura-dan's had to transfer a few members from the Root. Otherwise, wouldn't it be embarrassing for him, the acting Hokage of Konoha village, to call on his subordinates to help him and shout until his throat was hoarse, but no one paid attention to him? Now, these Anbu finally listened to him. "Spread the news that I officially become Hokage." Shimura-dan's handed the appointment letter to the leading Anbu. "Yes, Hokage." Anbu took the appointment letter respectfully. "Say it again, what did you call me?" Shimura-dan's asked excitedly. "Hokage-sama." Anbu repeated, lowering his head. "Ah." Shimura-dan's looked satisfied. Cool. It was really cool. This was the feeling he wanted. This was the scene he had been fantasizing about for many years in the Dark Roots, and he didn't expect it to come true today. "Okay, you guys go down." Shimura-dan's waved his hand, indicating that Anbu could leave. Upon hearing this, the Anbu quickly followed orders and left the Hokage's office. "You guys go down too," Shimura-dan said to several Root members. "Yes. Lord Hokage," said the Root member and left. Shimura-dan's put his hands behind his back and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window of the office. From his position, he could have a panoramic view of the entire scene of Konoha village. A breeze blew by, and Shimura-dan's closed his eyes comfortably. At this moment, he enjoyed this feeling very much. After a long while, he finally opened his eyes and began to look at the overall situation of Konoha village. Hiruzen has been in office for so many years, but it seems that the village's economy has not improved much. Shimura-dan's raised his hand and pointed to a place. This outdated building can be completely demolished and redeveloped. When he saw a place on the edge of the village, his pupils shrank sharply and he said angrily, "Damn Uchiha, they actually built such a large clan land, which is simply a waste of the village's land resources. I think Uchiha has already found a way to die." Among the many disciples of second Hokage Senju Tobirama, only Shimura-dan's perfectly inherited his teacher's will, which was to hate the Uchiha clan from the bottom of his heart. In their view, the Uchiha are a tribe that is inherently evil, because after the Uchiha members open their eyes, they are easily swallowed by the darkness and eventually go astray. Placing Uchiha in the village is like a time bomb, and no one knows when it will explode, so Senju Tobirama and Shimura-dan's hate it very much. It seems that the Uchiha genocide plan is going to be put on the agenda. Shimura-dan's muttered, "But before that, how about going to see how my old friend is doing recently?" Shimura-dan's visit to his old friend was fake, his trip to show off was real. As the saying goes, if you don't return home when you are rich, it's like walking in brocade at night. He couldn't wait to see Sarutobi Hiruzen's reaction when he found out he became Hokage. Shimura-dan's wanted to laugh when he thought of Sarutobi Hiruzen's complicated expression. He hurriedly set off to the Sarutobi clan's land. As soon as he reached the door, he suddenly heard that the Hokage's bamboo hat had not been taken, so he quickly turned back and picked up the bamboo hat on the table and put it on his head. "Today is such a good day, everything I wish for can come true." Shimura-dan's left the Hokage building happily. The land of the Sarutobi clan. Sarutobi Hiruzen sat on the doorstep, staring blankly at the white clouds in the sky. Since he abdicated, he had nothing to do but sit in the yard in a daze all day. Suddenly, Sarutobi Hiruzen slapped his thigh in regret, "I should have known not to ask those clan leaders for money." Then, he sighed again, "If I don't pay, that guy will spread the news that I peeped into the women's bathhouse." Sarutobi Hiruzen found himself in a dead end, and there was nothing he could do to change the outcome of losing the support of the people. "Forget it, maybe God wants me to die." Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed. "Hey, Hiruzen is free? It's good that he abdicated. Unlike me, I'm busy all day long." At this time, Shimura-dan said with a smile. Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at the Hokage hat on Shimura-dan's head and said to himself, "It's so hot, aren't you afraid of dying of heat even if you wear a hat?" Hearing Sarutobi Hiruzen's words, Shimura-dan smiled and said, "It's a bit hot indeed, but there's nothing I can do. I'm the Hokage now, and my image is important when I go out." Sarutobi Hiruzen's mouth twitched. Our acting Hokage is really busy with official duties. Sarutobi Hiruzen deliberately emphasized the word acting. "What? How do you know I've been hired as a full-time employee now?" Shimura-dan asked in surprise. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Pfft. Seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen's shocked expression, Shimura-dan finally couldn't hold back. "Ha ha ha, are you surprised? Are you surprised? I'm the 5th Hokage now." Sarutobi Hiruzen, "No way, this is absolutely impossible. P.S. You guys don't even give out free gifts now, it really makes me sad." Chapter 74. Sarutobi Hiruzen felt his eyes go dark after hearing the news. He said in disbelief, "Danzo, are you kidding me?" Sarutobi Hiruzen kept praying in his heart, hoping that Shimura-dan was joking with him. After all, his own failure was hard to accept, but his friend's success was even more painful. However, when he saw Shimura-dan's face, which was always covered with a smug smile, a chill ran down his spine. He knew that his prayers might have been in vain. Seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen's panic, Shimura-dan couldn't help but smile. He took out a daimyo's appointment letter from his arms and handed it to Sarutobi Hiruzen. "I don't know what you were expecting, but this is the reality." Shimura-dan sneered. Sarutobi Hiruzen took the document with trembling hands. When he saw what was written on the document clearly, he felt the blood rushing up and almost vomited blood. He didn't understand why Tsunade was unwilling to come back to serve as Hokage, and now he was taken advantage of by this guy Shimura-dan. Seeing Shimura-dan's smug look, Sarutobi Hiruzen felt like he was having a hard time breathing. It felt like he was dying, with more exhalation than inhalation. No, for what reason? He was already upset about being forced to abdicate, and now that he knows that Danzo has become Hokage, he feels even more uncomfortable. After a long silence, Sarutobi Hiruzen forced a stiff smile. "Haha, congratulations to you, Danzo. At the age of over 60, you finally became the coveted Hokage. It's really a cause for celebration." Shimura-dan was cheerful at first, but after hearing Sarutobi Hiruzen's next words, the smile on his face suddenly froze. Shimura-dan. He was originally happy, but Sarutobi Hiruzen's words made him unhappy again. Although, what Sarutobi Hiruzen said was true, but why does it make people feel so uncomfortable? Because, lies don't hurt, the truth is the sharpest knife. Shimura-dan's mouth twitched slightly, his eyes revealed a hint of coldness, and he said coldly, "I'm not here to talk nonsense with you today. I want to tell you that now that I have become the Hokage, some of my previous plans will now be put on the agenda. For example, destroying Uchiha." Hearing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen's expression instantly became serious. He frowned and said in a deep voice, "Danzo, some things cannot be done too drastically. We have to consider the future of the village. Am I too ruthless? Don't you see that the people from Uchiha have such a sour face all day long, as if others owe them 1,000,000 or 800,000? I have been annoyed with them for a long time." Shimura-dan snorted coldly. "Is this why you wanted to attack Uchiha?" Sarutobi Hiruzen asked with his eyes wide open in disbelief. "Is this why Danzo hates Uchiha? It's really horrible, I didn't expect Shimura-dan to be such a person." "Of course not. Uchiha has grown increasingly dissatisfied with the village over the years, and is now plotting a rebellion." Sarutobi Hiruzen sighed and said helplessly, "Alas, all this is indeed caused by my failure to handle it properly, but Danzo, you are really too extreme. We should think about how to ease the tension between the village and the Uchiha clan, rather than taking direct action against them, which will only make the already sharp conflict worse." Hearing this, Shimura-dan couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha, Hiruzen, Hiruzen, you are still so indecisive. Now Uchiha is a time bomb that may explode at any time. No one knows when it will explode. From the perspective of the village's safety, we must not leave Uchiha as a hidden danger." Shimura-dan couldn't understand Sarutobi Hiruzen's thoughts at all. The conflict between the two sides had developed to such an irreconcilable situation, but Sarutobi Hiruzen still wanted to solve the problem through peaceful means. Isn't this just wishful thinking? In his opinion, Sarutobi Hiruzen was simply ridiculously childish. Faced with such a serious situation, if decisive measures were not taken, I am afraid that the entire Konoha would fall into an abyss of no return. However, Sarutobi Hiruzen still holds on to that unrealistic fantasy and tries to calm the storm in a gentle way. Little does he know that doing so will only make the enemy more arrogant and domineering, and eventually bring greater disaster to the village. Seeing that Shimura Dance did not listen to his advice and was still determined to deal with the Uchiha clan, Sarutobi Hiruzen shouted angrily, "Enough, Danzo! I am the Hokage!" Upon hearing this, Shimura Dance's face turned pale. Damn it! Why am I not the Hokage? If I were the Hokage... Wait! He seems to be the Hokage now. Shimura Dance subconsciously touched the Hokage hat on his head. I was so scared, I almost forgot that I am the Hokage. When Sarutobi Hiruzen saw the Hokage hat on Shimura Dance's head, he realized that he was no longer the Hokage, but Shimura Dance was the Hokage. Ahem, sorry, I've been the Hokage for so many years, I'm used to it and I didn't react for a moment. Sarutobi Hiruzen scratched his head and laughed dryly. Shimura Dance. In fact, Shimura Dance didn't react just now. After all, this sentence is a lifelong shadow for Shimura Dance, because every time Sarutobi Hiruzen said this, he could only leave unwillingly. Hiruzen, every time we have a disagreement and an argument over the years, you always use the title of Hokage to pressure me. It really makes me uncomfortable. Shimura Dance gritted his teeth. Sarutobi Hiruzen laughed awkwardly, haha, no way, I'm just thinking about the village. Yet. Of course, Danzo, listen to me. The conflict between Uchiha and the village can still be reconciled. Don't even think about using force to resolve it. It will cause serious harm to the village. Sarutobi Hiruzen said anxiously. The Uchiha must be completely eliminated. You can just retire in the Sarutobi tribe's territory. I will take care of this matter. Shimura Dance said. Seeing this, Sarutobi Hiruzen suddenly became anxious. You can't do this. Other countries are eyeing the Fire Nation. If a war breaks out in the village, those countries will definitely take the opportunity to attack the Fire Nation. Shimura Dance said disdainfully, if other countries dare to come, then we will fight. I am not afraid of them. Danzo, you. Sarutobi Hiruzen wanted to say more, but was interrupted by Shimura Dance. That's enough, Hiruzen. I am the Hokage, I am not here to discuss with you, but to inform you. I will destroy the Uchiha clan, even Jesus can't stop it. Sarutobi Hiruzen. Isn't this his line? Is this line so hurtful? He can now understand how Danzo felt before. Seeing Sarutobi Hiruzen standing there in a daze, Shimura Dance just felt extremely refreshed. Cool. So cool. This is the feeling that power brings to people. Chapter 75. Extra, extra, the 5th Hokage of Konoha village has been officially confirmed, and it turns out to be him. Give me one. Give me one too. Oh my god, Shimura Dance is the 5th Hokage. I don't understand why Tsunade chose to give up being Hokage. Tsunade is the new gambling god of the Land of Fire. She doesn't have time to go back and inherit the title of Hokage. FK, is this true? How did you know? Isn't it written on the last line of page 3 of the newspaper? Really? You can make millions just by gambling. If it were me, I wouldn't want to go back and be the Hokage. After the newspapers were sold, the White Zetsu found a shady place to rest. Damn it, why do I have to sell newspapers too? Ah-Fei said dissatisfiedly. As the second-in-command of Ninja World All-in-One Service Co., Limited, didn't he just slack off in the office during work hours, embezzle and accept bribes, and misappropriate some of the company's public funds? Unexpectedly, after learning what it had done, Black Zetsu angrily threw it out of the office and made it start from the grassroots level. So, Ah-Fei had no choice but to go to the street and start selling newspapers. Master Ah-Fei, please don't be angry. I believe you will be able to return to the top of the company soon. Yes, Master Ah-Fei, we will definitely make a comeback. Hearing the compliments from the White Zetsu, Ah-Fei put his hands on his hips and laughed. That's right, that's right. When I return to the company, I will definitely promote you. Hearing this, the White Zetsu were very excited. As long as Ah-Fei really returned to the company, they would finally be able to make it. Selling newspapers is a really hard and tiring job. Even if you sell all the newspapers in such a hot day, you won't make much money. After all, the bulk of the money was taken away by the company, and only a little bit was left for them. Master Ah-Fei, I will work as a customer service representative in the intelligence department. I heard that I can make hundreds of thousands of dollars just by opening a business there. Is it true that intelligence agencies make so much money? Of course it's true. I have a friend who works in the intelligence department. He can earn at least 500,000 or 600,000 yuan by taking a business deal privately. FK, I want to be a customer service representative too. Master Afei, I want to be a customer service representative too. Sir, I feel the same way. Haha, isn't it just going to the intelligence department? No problem. Afei said with a smile. As long as it could return to the company, it would be easy to arrange for a few white zetsu to enter the intelligence department. Master Afei, awesome. Long live Lord Afei. Just then, a fat Mediterranean man in gorgeous clothes came over. Sorry, today's newspapers are sold out. Please come back tomorrow. Afei thought the other party was here to buy newspapers, so he explained. The fat man shook his head and said flatteringly, Dear White Zetsu, I came to you to buy information. Hearing this, Afei's eyes lit up and he immediately flattered, Are you here to buy intelligence? Then you have found the right person. Our Ninja World All-Knowing Service Co., Limited is definitely the most well-informed organization in the ninja world. We have almost all the information you want to know. Afei patted his chest and guaranteed. That's right, and this person is the second in command of the company, Lord Afei. White Zetsu explained. After hearing White Zetsu's explanation, the fat man became even more excited. He didn't expect that the White Zetsu in front of him held such a high position. Perhaps, what he had been searching for many years really was here. The fat man looked at the busy street and whispered, Master Afei, there are too many people here, let's talk for a moment. Afei nodded and said to the White Zetsu behind him, Wait for me here, I'll be back soon. With that, Afei followed the fat man and left. In a luxurious hotel in the capital of the Fire Nation. Tell me what information you want and I will find someone to help you arrange it. Afei said. The fat man looked embarrassed, and after a long while, he blushed and said, Master Afei, do you think there is anything in this world that can? Seeing that the fat man hadn't said anything for a long time, Afei said impatiently, What can you say? Just tell me when the time comes. The fat man clenched his fists and gritted his teeth and said, It can help a man regain his masculinity. After saying this, he immediately lowered his head in shame. What the hell? Afei's mind was full of question marks. What is rejuvenation? Why should men do it? Afei is just a white zetsu who likes to study feces and can't understand what the fat man said. What does regaining strength mean? Afei asked curiously. The fat man covered his face and said, Oh, that's disgusting. Master Afei, that's what I meant. A middle-aged fat man in his 40s with Mediterranean hair, with a shy face, flirted with Afei. Afei just felt uncomfortable all over, and a layer of goosebumps appeared on his body instantly. Can you be more specific? I really don't understand, said Afei. The fat man found that Afei really didn't seem to know what he meant, so he patiently explained, Master Afei, I am a wealthy businessman, my family is very rich, and I have married many concubines, but as I get older, I am becoming more and more powerless in that aspect. I have no choice but to come here to ask if you have anything that can help a man regain his masculinity. After hearing the fat man's explanation, Afei pretended to be enlightened and said, Oh, so it's you who are not good at that. Actually, Afei didn't understand the fat man's explanation. But Black Zetsu once told him that when doing business outside, if the other party gives an explanation, even if he still doesn't understand it, you should also make an expression of sudden enlightenment, because this will make the other party feel that you understand what he means and are not a fool, and the other party will give up the idea of cheating you. The fat man's mouth twitched. If you understand, then you understand. Why do you have to make an expression of sudden enlightenment? Doesn't he have any dignity? This will really embarrass him, BD. So, do you have this kind of thing here? The fat man asked expectantly. Afei didn't even understand what the fat guy meant, so how could he know whether the company had such a thing? Just when Afei was at a loss, a figure suddenly appeared in his mind. If it was that man, perhaps there really was such a thing. Thinking of this, Afei patted his chest and assured, Of course there is, but the price will be very expensive. It knows the prices of the goods in that store, and if there are any, the prices will definitely not be cheap. Therefore, it has to give Fatty a heads up first, otherwise what if Fatty sees that the prices are too high and doesn't buy? Price is not a problem. I lack everything except money, the fat man said excitedly. He originally saw in for the Ninja Know-It-All company in the newspaper, so he came to inquire with the mentality of giving it a try. He didn't expect that this company really had such a thing. It's really powerful. Wait for me here, I'll go back and get it for you. Ah Fei said, then left the hotel and headed towards the border of the Fire Nation. P.S. I will continue to beg for gifts, I hope readers can help me regain my glory.
If you're enjoying the story so far and want to hear the next parts, don't forget to like the video. It really helps the channel grow. And if you'd like me to continue the series, drop a comment below letting me know. Your feedback and support keep these audiobooks going strong. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.